Yeah, I got money on my phone and money on me. I got all these hoes, but still lonely. They been blowing on that strong, but still so weak. I've been higher than a drone, but still low-key. We been sitting on the floor, they in the nosebleeds. Lately I've been in control, they can't control me. Yeah, they about to get exposed for being so cheap. I've been sticking to the code and I ain't gon' cheat. Yo, grew my hair and took the grill out. Think it's time to put it back in. Trying to get into that big house, turn the crib into the mansion. Needed something with that big bounce. You know I had to hit Jackson. Aaron Rodgers with the quick routes. I'm with the gang, we packing. We on the field at Lambo. Might peel in a Lambo. Running drills in my camo. They know what the M stand for. Still got fam in Hawaii, yeah. Couple fans in the lobby, yeah. Couple grand in my pocket, yeah. Couple grams of wasabi, yeah. Eye it up, no glasses. Light it up, no matches. Wife it up, no ratchets. Might turn my wife to an actress. And we gon' make a movie, no Kim K. Give a fuck about what your friends say. I got money on my phone and money on me. I got all these hoes, but still lonely. They been blowing on that strong, but still so weak. I've been higher than a drone, but still low-key. We been sitting on the floor, they in the nosebleeds. Lately I've been in control, they can't control me. Yeah, they about to get exposed for being so cheap. I've been sticking to the code and I ain't gon' cheat.
I'm just sticking to the code, I keep it so G. She asked me what I smoke, I'm smoking OG. I don't fool with too many, only catch me 4 deep. Gotta stay away from snakes, swear these people so creep. I've been grinding for a minute, many labels so sleep. These rappers drop a song, be hot for about a week. I put Gucci on my toes, I keep some cold feet. I ain't paying for no hoes, you niggas know me. I'm about to body the beat. I keep me a hottie with me. She wanna f for a fee. Give me that for free. Keep me some money on me. Smoking the gas key. You f with me, sheesh. Bonito, cheap, keef.
I got money on my phone and money on me. I got all these hoes, but still lonely. They been blowing on that strong, but still so weak. I've been higher than a drone, but still low-key. We been sitting on the floor, they in the nosebleeds. Lately I've been in control, they can't control me. Yeah, they about to get exposed for being so cheap. I've been sticking to the code and I ain't gon' cheat.
Hop in the car, watch it go vroom, vroom. I told her mom that I will soon, soon. Knew as a child back in the womb. Oh, told her step back, I need my room, room. Hop in the car, watch it go vroom. I'm in a whip, so I gotta zoom. They tryna talk, they not in the room. I been so real, I'm dead to the tomb. They in the way, they gotta move. I gotta gas, they running them fumes. Told them way back, it's something new. It's me and damn, you gotta choose. I'm taking what's mine, I'm doing fine. Don't see the vision, they looking so blind. I hit my lawyer, I don't got the time. Crossing my T's and he dotting those eyes. Don't take offense if I do not oblige. I can't relate but like none of these guys. They hit me once and I'm cutting the ties. I was so low but I'm back on the rise, it's real. Hop in the car, watch it go vroom, vroom. I told her mom that I will soon, soon. Knew as a child back in the womb. Oh, told her step back, I need my room, room. Hop in the car, watch it go vroom. I'm hopping now I gotta go. I'm looking back, they not even close. I had a 4, now I need a ghost. I got a wave like I'm on the coast. Same ones are down and I dare the show. So way that I'm ballin', they think I'm a pro. I'm getting sick by the money I gross. They saying whoa, I told them all what this is. I told them all I don't miss. Said it's my time, look at this shit on my wrist. And when they shootin' this breaks, I'm going in a new gig, gotta shift. I cannot stick to the script, I cannot wait. Watch how I get it and flip. It's just how I'm doing this shit and I'm gone. Just how I'm doing this shit and I'm gone. Hey, just how I'm doing this shit and I'm gone.
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Ayy, on the road, here we go, here we go. Yeah, we winning by a landslide.
Never see me coming, I'm a landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command like, yeah, you about to see me on demand like, you know on demand. If you ain't know, you about to understand. Yeah, I got the team by my side, right hand. Yeah, take it to a string, you ain't seen it like that. Yeah, and it's the dream, and we coming for the bag. Yeah, and we ain't ever going back now. Future expedited, now we on the fast track now. They won't lend a hand, now they see us on the map now. It's time to act out. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Hey, on the road, here we go, yeah. At the top of the class on a roll. Hey, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know, yeah. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Yeah, on the road, here we go, here we go. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Hey, on the road, here we go, yeah. At the top of the class on a roll. Hey, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know, yeah. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Yeah, on the road, here we go, here we go. Here we go. On the road, here we go, here we go.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Frankie Candles live stream every single weekday right here at 5:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Except for yesterday, guys. I cannot explain what was going on yesterday. YouTube Studio, it would bring me into the control panel. There was just no chat and no go live button. It was like I could start OBS, but I just could not hit that live button. Unbelievable. But we're back. I don't know if YouTube got hacked yesterday or what the heck was going on. Some people said they had some trouble in streams that they were watching earlier that day. I don't know what it was. I was literally sitting here like, come on, work. But we're back, guys. We're back. YouTube is fixed. So, yeah, we got a lot to look at here on the charts. Luckily, I did drop an update yesterday, which pretty much the live stream is going to be a repeat of that of the market update that I dropped yesterday because not much has changed. And we're going to go over some key levels here, guys, as Bitcoin has gotten the push to the upside here, continuing to bounce off the $108,650 MPOC. Is this going to be the bottom? Well, I'll show you some things on Market Cypher B, which might indicate that it's not. And I'll show you guys the key levels where I'll be looking for another bounce. And if we do get that push to the upside, we'll cover those key levels of resistance to the upside, as we do have major resistance above. And yeah, we'll try to take a look at some of those longer-term scenarios here, guys. Are we worried? Is the top in at $125,000 about? Well, it's not my base case, but we will talk a little bit about that. Frankie's styling with a fresh new haircut. Yo, I actually kind of didn't realize I didn't have a hat on, guys, until I pulled the camera up. And I'm not going to lie, it low-key feels weird. So give me 2 seconds here. And we're back. I can't do it without the hat, guys. I feel out of character without the hat on, but I did get a haircut. So I got a haircut a couple days ago. But, guys, we got a lot to look at on the charts here today. So we're going to be taking a look at shout out to Bubby. Says, honestly, if we are falling below $107,000, the world's biggest exchanges start losing money. Whatever good they'll do, whatever good they do. It's moving too fast. I can't even read that. Maybe I'll come back to that. But, guys, we got a lot to look at on the charts today. So, without further ado, shout out to More Timer Duke. What is going on? Welcome in. We got Hugo's in the chat. We got Jacob New Earth Guardian. Welcome in. We got DK Knight. Darren Does Things. Rob the Crypto Snob. We got Jay Violet in the chat, guys. Show them on some love. And, yeah, we got a lot to look at here. Frankie, I heard you were arrested yesterday for throwing green candles onto the WNBA court. Any truth to that? Shout out to Rudy. I'm going to go ahead and plead the number 5 there. Can't confirm nor deny. You will catch me throwing some green candles here and there, though. I can't confirm if they were going onto the basketball court, though. Unbelievable. All right, let's what ETA on ETH? Where will it bounce? Or we're headed back to 42.90. Yeah, we'll take a look at ETH, guys. We'll take a look at some of the altcoins as well. I'm not going to dive into like every single altcoin today, but we'll cover Ethereum. We'll cover some of the big boys, and then maybe we'll even take some requests. But without further ado, guys, we got a lot to look at here on the charts, so let's go ahead and jump on into the charts. Let's get into it. Did I freak you guys out coming on with no hat? They're like, who the heck is this guy? Some people think this hat is permanently attached to my head. Which I did have to have it surgically removed. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump in here, guys. Now, obviously, we are getting a little dump to the downside here. NVIDIA earnings did come out. I think they came in slightly above the expectation. I don't really trade based off this, obviously, guys, but we did see some crazy volatility on those earnings. Are we coming down here to fill the wick? That is definitely a possibility. We got the big wick to the downside, a big push back up. But I'm going to cover here the higher time frames before we go ahead and dive into those local levels. Now, obviously, guys, we are still getting our continued bounce from our daily MPOC here, sitting at about 108,687. We did have a long position down here in the premium Discord. I did not snipe the bottom of this, unfortunately, but I did catch a entry here on the flip of, I believe it was the flip of this daily MPOC for a move to the upside. So I am holding that long position. I will pull it up in just a minute. But we are getting that continued bounce here, guys, which is the start of our bigger level of support, that massive $108,000 to $107,000 golden pocket daily MPOC confluence with that point of control of the range. And we've also looked at this in a slightly different context as well, pulling up our larger volume profile here, guys. This is a massive level of support to bounce off, guys. If we wind up losing this level, I'm not going to lie, right? Every time we come up here for new all-time highs, guys, and again, I'm not saying the top is in. There's nothing on the chart right now, as I've said over the past few streams. Obviously, not really much has happened here. I'm actually going to expect a bit of chop down here, but actually, somebody said price action's been garbage. Yeah, this is, other than that bounce off the daily MPOC, like trading within here has been a bit choppy, right? And we will take a look at Market Cypher B to try to predict overall direction here, but I do still think, guys, that there is a possibility of coming down here and taking out this low again to dig a little deeper into this support level. But guys, this is really the level that we need to stay above. Obviously, I'm not going to cover this too much because I've covered it so many times on previous live streams. So if we do come down there, right, the bottom of this golden pocket and the daily MPOC that we have down there is sitting at about $107,000. That is going to be that even number of 107K. Maybe we dig a little deeper here. I do believe we also no daily down there. But if we do dig in here, guys, still a key level of support, right? We did bounce off the top of this, but we do still have the golden pocket and these and this daily MPOC that is not tapped just yet. We tapped the daily MPOC. We still have the golden pocket and this daily MPOC down below. Massive level of support here, guys. Just from a simple perspective, I will take off the MPOCs just to kind of look at this. You know, I said it yesterday in the market update. If you guys looked at this, right, like this is the level, right? We really want to hold on top of this if you are looking for a much bigger move into new all-time highs, which is my base case here. Not that we have to travel up in this exact manner, but I do still think that there is a possibility of having the final phase here come in for the bull market, see Bitcoin push into new all-time high, and then also see the altcoins finally get their moves. We got the rate cuts coming down the line, blah, 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 right? We've covered this so many times. I don't want to just beat the dead horse, but all this stuff does still stay in line here, guys, in my own personal opinion. But if we wind up losing this $107,000 level, guys, this is the first biggest sign of weakness, in my opinion. And to be quite honest, you know, every single top that we have put in here, guys, I have stayed true in our overall bias. Oh my God, we're coming down. Is this the bear market? I do not think so. I'm looking for new all-time highs. We get it. Oh my God, is this the bear market? I don't think so. I'm looking for new all-time highs. We get it. But the more and more this happens, guys, the further and further along we come into this cycle, the more likely that the top is in, right? And I'm not saying it's more likely that the top is in right now, but it does get a little suspicious. And if we lose this $107,000 golden pocket, guys, it is going to make me a little bit more suspicious because we've covered this. You know, when we look for new all-time highs, right? Like there's not necessarily, it's very hard to call that tippy top. You have to let price action develop so you can reanalyze price, look for those retracements, and then try to figure out if the top is in. And this is pretty much where I was calling the top last cycle, saying there's a lot of signs on the chart. We have the massive bearish divergences. We have the weekly money flow coming out. Get ready for the bear market, guys. And I got absolutely hated on for that. But we wound up being right. And it wasn't just, me being a wizard. It was, obviously all pointing here on the charts. I've gone over all the confirmations that we looked at for a very likely bear market to come in. And it wound up playing out, right? So with that being said, I wouldn't say there's anything on the chart right now that says that this is definitely the high. So my base case is still, as long as we hold above here, there's really nothing to worry about, right? We could still wiggle up here, and I'll talk about those key levels of resistance that we must get above to indicate very likely new all-time highs. But we do have a lot of work to do at this point. If we lose this golden pocket, guys, and we come on down to this 786, I really don't want to visit this. I'll be honest, because at this point, right, like, is this an area where you could continue to put in a higher low? Yes, but you really got to break out of that value area high with gusto. And on this way up, guys, I am going to be watching that high time frame money flow like an absolute hawk, trying to predict, right, if the weekly money flow is coming out and we're just seeing these retracements to the upside. Typically the top signals are indicated on those retracements, right? If the top is in here, well, guess what? We're not going to break that high again. But there's nothing on the chart as of right now. I want to be very clear about that, right? There's nothing on the chart right now that says, oh my God, this is the high. We do have weekly bearish divergences, but we just need more development here. We need more information to call confidently that was the high. And again, my base case does remain that I will be expecting new all-time highs until something breaks here in the chart. And I would say losing this 786 obviously would cause a lot more pain, or losing the golden pocket alone. Get accepted underneath this value area high, does open up the target down here towards about 96,700, and potentially a drop down to the low 90s, right? $92,000 towards this value area low. I don't know what this is going to play out like if we lose this golden pocket. Maybe we get the bounce here, a lower high, and then we lose this again, right? Like, this is going to be a very, very sketchy situation if we have to lose these levels. So just wanted to start off the stream with that. Not saying the high is in right now, but we do have to be, I am on, watch here for these very key levels. These are, we say this a lot, right? Oh my God, make or break moment for Bitcoin, but this could not be more true right now. Like, this is the level we want to hold. Lose it, I would say, you'd have to expect some kind of a surprising rip to the upside. Hopefully there's a narrative that can come in to drive price up as well. And, if you're asking, well, Frankie, if we lose this, right, like, why am I not just saying that there's a likely case that this is the all-time high? Well, we talked about the market psychology very, very often. It just, the sentiment's not great in here, right? Like, we don't see the typical euphoria we see in the market. Now, are you guaranteed to see that? No. But I just do think there's a more likely case, right, that you do see a parabolic top come in here. You see all the retail come in, all the narratives of super cycle, we're going to $1 million. This analyst said we're going to 500,000 by the end of the year, whatever it is. That is typically the environment that you feel, that sentiment that you feel at the top of the market. We just simply don't have that up here. And again, it doesn't guarantee that the top's not in, but it's just, if we had that sentiment in the market right now, that would be a bit more concerning in my opinion, right? And on top of this, we have all the macro indicators pointing towards a potential and eventual breakout here. And I want to be clear here, guys. If we see alt season, it does not mean that Bitcoin has to break out into a new all-time high. And I might make a video about this, kind of going over what we've seen in the past. But, obviously we do have the Bitcoin dominance breaking down here, as we've looked at many, many times. Bada boom, right? We're breaking down below that value area low. Like, this is a very, very good sign. We have the RTY, as we've covered. Russell 2000 breaking out here. Actually, this made a new high. Russell 2000 still cooking in the right direction. We also have talked about the exchange tokens getting early moves is oftentimes an early indicator that this is going to, just think about the waterfall of crypto, right? You just look up like the money flow of crypto chart, just Google it. I don't know who made it, but it'll be like the first thing that pops up. People start buying Bitcoin. They make their money in Bitcoin, right? At that point, this is where everything rolls over into the high caps, the mid caps, and then eventually the low caps and the absolute garbage, the NFTs, the meme coins, etc. And, we have the Bitcoin dominance coming down, the RTY breaking out. We have Ethereum cracking up, making new all-time highs, just creeping up here, which is very, very nice to see. This is all indicating, in my opinion, that the chance of a bigger, this is what we've seen in the past. This is everything you want to see for big moves up, not only on Ethereum, but Solana, etc. We've taken a look at Solana. Still kind of creeping up near these highs. I'm still waiting to see if we can come into this next resistance zone between about 217 and about 226, eventually ending up at about 236 or 237 at that value area high. This all still looks pretty good in my opinion. So I would say there's still way more things pointing to the upside than the downside. But as you guys know, the market does not always give you what you want, right? So at the end of the day, when you see that grand finale in crypto, right, you see the alt season come in, Bitcoin sometimes will go into a parabolic top, but oftentimes, you will see the altcoins run where Bitcoin is kind of just going into that retracement for a lower high and a lower low. And in that case, you would be saying that the high is in, right? Again, not my base case, right? Only because we have not broken this key support that we just went over, right? As long as we stay up here, we still have an opportunity to hold support, even dig down a little bit deeper, come back up, and then put in that new all-time high. I prefer this, obviously. I do hold Bitcoin. I would love to see new all-time highs, but it doesn't necessarily mean, like, it's not impossible for the high to be on Bitcoin and still see the altcoins run. And obviously, we've seen things like BNB. I talked about why you see those exchange tokens run, indicating alt season for that final phase of the bull market, right? People start trading more. The exchanges start making more. Those exchange tokens start to pump. These are early indications of a potential alt season coming in. I'm not saying it has to happen tomorrow or next week, right? But these are all long-term signals that have all been in line in the past to see that final phase of the bull market come in. But it does not mean that Bitcoin has to rip up to $200,000, right? Unfortunately. I hope it does, right? Obviously, I do hope it does. But at the end of the day, guys, when the charts start breaking, we have to anticipate what could potentially happen, right? It's like the same thing as 2021. Could we have bounced here and went into $100,000? Yes. But at that moment, when we reassess the price action after this drop in this consolidation, the signs were not there on the chart. It's very similar to Bitcoin dominance, right? Like last time we were looking at, every time we look at Bitcoin dominance, when everyone's calling for alt season, more often than not, I'm sitting there and I'm saying, I don't know, guys. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but there is just nothing on the chart indicating alt season here, at least on the Bitcoin dominance chart. And we were right about that, right? And I don't say that to brag or say, oh my God, we're right all the time. I hate that. But it is just on the chart. In this case, we do have a reason to potentially anticipate that, right? So, if you see people calling for alt season, I can't really argue against it at this point. This is exactly what we were looking for to get a push up towards that 786, lose our POC, come down to the value area low where we anticipated a little bit of volatility, and then an eventual breakdown here. And this was all based off the higher time frame money flow. Daily money flow still tanking to the downside. 2-day money flow still continuing down here. We do have a little bit of a 2-day bullish divergence here. So again, you can see a little bit of turbulence there. But at the end of the day, guys, from a trend perspective, this still looks pretty dang weak in my opinion. So my sentiment long-term remains exactly the same, but this will change. This will change, at least for Bitcoin, if we wind up losing these key levels. So when we say make or break moment, I say this for a reason. Right? When we say, I don't know, guys, I don't think alt season's going to come in because it's not on the signals are not on the dominance chart. We say this for a reason. It's not just a random bet or just trying to counter trade other people because we have to be right. It is all written on the chart. And I would still say we have so many indicators here long term that are all conditions that have to be met for that final phase alt season to come in, and that would be absolutely beautiful. And obviously, there's 1,000 different scenarios that can play out, but we can only deal with the information that we currently have on the chart. So when I say, we need a little bit more development here on the price action, it is the 100% the case. So major levels to watch, $107,000. Once we start losing that, I start scratching my head like, oh boy, we might be in for some more downside. And when you take a look at the daily money flow, unless we get a fake out here, maybe we get some kind of narrative to come in to squeak this money flow to fake it back out into the green. That would be very nice, but we can't really front run that. At the end of the day, you have the daily green dot potentially looking to print, but on these bounces, we still have to be careful of lower highs and lower lows. 100% based off the money flows is how we predict the continuations of these trends every single time. Why do we think that if we were able to get above this key level that we had back here in April, we were looking for a big continuation of the upside? It wasn't just flipping this major trend line that we were looking at. Right? Get above this major trend line. We might be shifting here to go to the upside, but we also have the volume profile that could get filled up here, which is another big sign of strength to get above that value area low. And this is all going to make sense when I bring up the local price action. But what was another big thing happening here, guys? Money flow crossing into the green. This is what you want to see for a massive move up, not money flow coming out. So be aware of that. There are some warning signs here on the chart that if, best case scenario, we just come down a little bit more to hold this level again. But if we lose this and we get bounces, lower highs and lower lows, and this money flow is cruising into the red, what are we going to be saying? Any bounce has to be looked at as lackluster for continuation down, lackluster for continuation down. And I would say the next biggest level on the chart doesn't come in until down here at about $92,000. And we do have some macro confluence here as well. We have our golden pocket pulled from the low to the high. Beautiful confluence there. So, I would anticipate some kind of a bounce at this level, right? But at that point, if you have that weekly money flow coming out, what does that look like? Well, hey, macro lower high for a massive lower low. This daily money flow is coming out, but if this happens on the weekly as we retrace back up into key levels of resistance, I would have to be calling at that point like, hey, guys, I'm going to be saying the same thing I would be saying back here. I don't know, guys. This is a bearish consolidation pattern. Not that I would trade this alone, but we're also coming into our golden pocket 786. which is an area to put in a macro lower high for a macro lower low. And the reason you would anticipate that big drop is because of that weekly money flow. This indicates the bear market every single time. The good news is we're still pretty thick in the green here, right? So there's still time to save us here. I don't want to cause fear or anything. Like I said, my base case is that, it might just chop around here, guys. It's like I wish I could just say on the 3rd of September, we're going to get a massive bounce, right? That's impossible. I know timing is something that, like, everybody wants to know. They're like, Frankie, just tell me when we're going to moon. It's very difficult to say, to talk about, right, or predict because, we could kind of range around here for a little bit. It could be very brutal. You could get the fake out, right? There's many, many different situations that could play out here. So I would say right now, 107K is the biggest level. Once we break down about below that, we can start to talk about the idea of potentially coming down to that 786. And the one nice thing about this 786, even if it isn't going to be a bounce into the new, into a new all-time high, obviously we can make money on those little bounces to the upside. But when we look at this from our local perspective, I'm going to take off that major support. We'll pull up our lower volume profile. You guys can see here this 786 is confluent with the value area low. So, I can't say that it's impossible to lose this level and then get the higher low on the 786, continue our macro uptrend for a new all-time high. But if that money flow is coming out as we push up, it's going to be very worrisome for me. I would say the lower probability that bouncing off this 786 puts us into a massive new all-time high. Because at this point, we are below all of this resistance, which is going to be major, major resistance on the way back up. And if money flow is coming out and we're anticipating, it's just going to force us to anticipate lower highs and lower lows. But what if money flow fakes out, right? On the weekly, you don't really see that many fake outs. So if that weekly money flow is coming out on those retracements, it's going to be a big warning sign, guys. I'm not going to lie. And I wish I could say it's guaranteed. Just because my base case is for new all-time highs, I will be expecting that. But if something breaks, as a trader, you have to be able to shift your mindset, right? You have to be able to shift your sentiment as you get new information on the chart. Because right now, there's no reason why we can't bounce here and continue up. And I will cover those local levels of resistance in a minute. But once you break down below here, now we're dealing with a different scenario, right? So you have to look at the market through those goggles, right? You can't just say, well, I want all-time highs, so I have to call for it. Absolutely not, right? That's not how the market moves. The market does not care about what you want. As a matter of fact, more often than not, I would more likely bet on the chances of getting kind of like faked out, right? Like if it was as easy, right? The 4-year cycle was just like as perfect as like, oh, well, we've expected this in the past. This has to play out this time, right? Well, more often than not, you do get a little bit of a quirk in each cycle that kind of fakes you out. That is going to be the higher probability situation. So the only thing we can do here is take a look at the charts and understand the key supports down below, which I just went over. Don't want to lose 107K. But if we do get down there, don't get it twisted. We will be looking for new bounces here. I would not be surprised if we do come back down, sweep out these lows, and hopefully, I would expect some kind of a bounce here, but hopefully we start to get cooking pretty fast, right? Again, hopefully there's a narrative or something to send us up from there. But yeah, that's kind of the longer-term sentiment. But now let's just go over the local levels. Obviously, 107K major support. If we do continue up, let me pull up our local range here. So obviously, guys, the biggest levels of resistance I will be looking at next. If we do continue up, we have the golden pocket, 786 Fibonacci retracement, definitely an area to look for a potential lower high and lower low if we do not come down from where we are right now. So the if this, then that is if we continue up from here, I will be looking right here between about 115,533 and 113,952. Big level. And when you have that money flow coming out, like it is on the daily here, and he bounces to the upside, lackluster, lower highs, lower lows, especially if we don't take the low right now, right? If we don't take the low in the next couple of days here before we come up, right? Definitely going to be a big level to watch. But with that being said, this is going to be, in my opinion, the first major sign of strength. If we are able to get up here and flip this to support, well, hey, based off the volume profiles, what are we going to be anticipating? We're going to be anticipating the POC to be the next stop for price, which is another major level of resistance, right? We're below all this resistance, guys. Key support turns into major resistance once you break through it, right? And we snap through this stuff on the way back up, major level. You also have the anchored VWAP from the all-time high, which would be a huge level to look at. And that is confluent with this zone as well. One more time, 115,533, 114K, right? Major resistance. If we flip it, we can look up towards the POC. We also have a daily MPOC up there as well. I believe we have a daily level up there as well. So, that would be the next big level of resistance. We also have a lot of liquidity sitting up there on the heat maps. Let me see if I can pull this up. Where we at? Right here. So if we look at this, right, you obviously do have a lot of liquidity sitting up here between 116.5 all the way up to about 117.5, right? So that, when you have a lot of liquidity up there, you could say to yourself, well, hey, if we flip this value area low, maybe that liquidity starts to act as a magnet, sucking price up. And on top of that, you also have the magnetic nature of that POC. But you have to flip this value area low. This is major resistance until proven otherwise. Same thing here. Major resistance, and if I pull our macro fib here, let me see where this pulls up from the high to the low. Yeah, you got your macro golden pocket just above there as well. This is a huge, huge level. We also have a lot of liquidity sitting up at 120K, but we're not going to be able to go take that until we get above the POC. So I will just be treating this as a typical volume profile, right? We're deviating below. If we get the push up, this is resistance until proven otherwise. If we get stuck back in, well, hey, maybe we could start to look for that rotation of the profile. But I do just want to point out that it's not a typical volume profile rotation, right? Like even here, you get above the low, you look to go to the POC, you flip the POC, you look to go to the high. That's exactly what we were looking for here. It's exactly what we got. But right now, this is major. We have tons of resistance above us, right? And with that money flow coming out on the daily, it does look a little suspicious, right? If that green dot gives us the continuation up, but money flow is continuing out, lower highs and lower lows, right? Money flow indicate the longer term trend every single time. We look at this for almost every single breakdown of a major range. What do we have here? Major volume profile. Money flow starts trending to the downside. This would indicate that this range is much more likely to break to the downside. Sure, we get a nice daily green dot here for a bounce back up, but what happens? Lower high, lower low. Why you anticipate that? Your money flow is coming into the red, indicating that longer term trend, right? So just be aware of that. It's kind of the same thing, but on a miniature version, right? Just a smaller range. You might be able to get that green dot to push you up, but you got to be careful of the lower high and the lower low. Hopefully, if we come up, we got to see if that money flow pops back to the upside, but it's got to happen in a very aggressive manner. So there you go. Shout out to J. Cole. Thank you for the super chat, bro. I appreciate you. He says, Frankie, can I get a bear cycle low prediction? Shout out to J. Cole. Hang on one second here, guys. Everybody, I need everybody at home right now to do me a big favor and look behind you. Look behind you right now. Anyway. Shout out to J. Cole. Bear market prediction. Listen, this is kind of difficult to talk about, or not difficult to talk about, but it's going to rely heavily on how high we go, right? If we make a new all-time high, my bear market prediction would be different, right? Because if we come all the way up, say, to 130 to 140K, well, then I'm going to be looking for about a 65 to 70% dump, maybe. This would bring us, yeah, it would be kind of hard, right? Because in the previous cycle, the reason I anticipated a low to come in here between $12,000 and $14,000, yes, we did not bottom tick that, right? We came down to about 15.5, but my bottom prediction here was between 12 and 14K. But once you start seeing those massive bullish signs here at the low, which was a massive, massive weekly bullish divergence here, lower lows, higher lows, money flow starts to come back up. At that point, I'm saying, hey, guys, I think the bottom's in here, right? Especially once you break back into your major volume profile here. Once you crack above that low, you're probably going to fill that volume profile in full, right? Which is exactly what we saw happen. But it had a lot to do with the weekly money flow. And, on top of that, right, you're waiting for that 75-ish% correction to the downside, right? We come down 78%, 80 to 75%. So that also fills that kind of condition, right? It's like, well, are we deep enough for a bear market to be, is this low enough for a bear market to play out? Sure. Have we had enough time pass by for a bear market to play out? Sure. Right. Was this a, near a retest of the previous all-time high? Sure. Right. This was another big level that we had on the chart on the way back down. Was like, well, hey, maybe we want to come back down and retest those range highs. Right? What happens? You come down, sure, you dig below them, right? But at the end of the day, it was a retest of that structure for another big move to the upside. So it really depends, right? The higher we go, the higher up that floor is going to come. So, it's really hard. I would say if you came down, if we're assuming, right, that, 125K is the top, if you want to assume that's the top, right? Well, the idea of the stabilization of the asset as more money enters the asset, as you have the institutional money that could prop the bottom of the bear market up a little bit. So maybe we don't go down 77%. Maybe we go down 74%, 75%. That would bring us down to about 30K. But that's if we come down from where we are right now. Right? If we come back up, right, that's going to change that prediction just a little bit. And I don't know if we have to come this deep. There's so many things that can change. But once we're a little bit more clear on the bottom being, or the top being in, we can make a little bit more of an in-depth kind of prediction on where we think the bear market will be ending, right? And at the end of the day, right, just because I thought 12 to 14K would be the bottom and we were close, if it looked bearish down here, right, we would change our sentiment and be like, okay, well, it doesn't look like this is going to be the low. Like maybe this is, maybe we're going to see Bitcoin take a bigger drop down for some reason in this cycle, in which case we would look back down to the next levels of support, which would be between about 110 and 112K. So, I would just say like kind of the ways that I like to predict these is, you just measure how big these last bear markets have been, right? Like you have the 88%, you have about, whatever it is, 80-something%, right? And then it does tend to give you a little bit less and less of a drop as the cycles continue, 83%, right? And then you would expect a little less than that here, right? You could take an average of the previous bear market, 77%, so maybe it's like 75, between 70 and 75%. Which, still would bring you pretty deep here, right? And I know that sounds crazy. People said that we'll never see 50K again, right? People are like, you're an idiot if you think you're going down into the teens. Bitcoin's never going below 50K again. 100K is incoming. 30K is the bottom, right? It's just like none of that ever matters, guys. It is always going to come down to the charts and the analysis. That's going to be the better thing to look at. And that's why I always teach people, right? Learn how to read charts. Do not just rely on some influencer to tell you what they think is going to happen. Because even if you're watching someone like me who is basing everything off the charts, if you have a good understanding of the charts, you might be able to see this and be like, yeah, you know what, though? I don't like that. I like to pay attention to whatever type of analysis, and that is calling for this lower level, whatever it is. And you can actually base your predictions off of something rather than just relying on somebody who is probably making content for clicks. And like most thing they care about is clickbait and getting the most clicks, the most views, so they can make money off YouTube, right? And no hate for that. Respect that. But you can't rely on that. If you want to make money in this market, understanding the charts is going to be your best bet, because if you see somebody calling for some kind of crazy bear market prediction, and you're looking at the charts and you're just like, this is so unlikely based off like what rationally would happen here in a bear market. A lot of people are calling for 3K, a lot of people are calling for 8K, and at this point, sure, you could say I think the bottom's going to come in at 8K, but once you start seeing these massive bullish signs, you have to start to think to yourself, well, hey, maybe we're not going down to 8K. And if you know how to read the charts, you can kind of take when people say something, you can kind of take it and put it to the test, right? Like how realistic is it that we go to this price, right? And you can actually base it off information. And this makes you it allows you to do your own analysis and make your own decisions based off something. It's not just like you have to like think you're right. You could base it off the charts and just say, hey, the higher probability here based off these signals we have down here is that the bottom is in. So in that case, I'm probably not going to wait for 3K. I'm probably not going to wait for 8K. I don't care who's calling for it, right? And hey, if you're wrong and they're right, then that's great. But at least you based your prediction off of something that is actually legit, right? Such as the chart. And I know a lot of people say the charts aren't always right. Sure, that is absolutely factual, but if you watch this channel, you'll see how much more often the charts are right than they are wrong, right? A lot of people, especially like at the tops and the bottoms, right? In the bottoms, everyone's bearish, especially with all the news catalysts that happen here. Exchanges going down, crypto regulation. Oh my God, this is different. This time is different. We're going to 3K. This thing is unsustainable, right? But it's like once you see those signals on the chart, none of that matters, guys. This sentiment in this market changes so fast. It's hilarious, right? I actually get a kick out of it. It's like every time you get a drop down, people come in, oh my God, the top is in, bear market's incoming. They say it every single time, right? But like if you don't know how to read the charts, the way I'm able to stay solid in my predictions, solid in my sentiment, is because I understand the charts. There was no reason to think that this was the bear market based off the charts, not just because that's what I thought, right? And what happens? All the people who get bearish down here are kicking themselves because you do go up and make that new all-time high. So the charts are the truth every single time. I don't pay attention to news. I mean, not that I don't pay attention to the news, but I don't base my decisions based off the news. As a matter of fact, at the tops, every major top on Bitcoin has come in on major bullish news. Oh my God, but you don't understand, man. You don't understand that Bitcoin's the most fundamentally bullish it's ever been. Happens every time, right? And it's like it doesn't change the way the market moves, right? Bitcoin and crypto follows the traditional market. So like even at that point, it's like if stocks are looking like they're going to dump, this thing is going to follow every single time. And until that changes, right, you can't look at this time is different, right? You can entertain the idea that this time might be different. Maybe this time will be different. Who knows, right? Maybe we do go up to 500K or something like that. That's not my base case because that's not what the charts call for. But maybe this time is different, but every single time that this time is different, people are completely wrong, and you don't want to get caught on the wrong side of the market like that, especially just based off of sentiment, right? So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Let's see. Shout out to Bet 1, then Bet 2. Shout out to you, man. Thank you for the super chat. Says ADA 3 Rising Valleys 4 hour. I'll take a look at Cardano for you, no problemo. Phantom Soul said, yup, said it many times, the bottom is in. Shout out to Phantom. You think the bottom is in? I hope so. That would be nice. I mean, and hey, is there a reason to accept that as a possibility? I would say there is, right? Well, and the reason for that is simply because we have bounced off that big key level of support. Now, again, me personally, I would not be shocked if we take this low again, but I hope, like from an emotional standpoint, I hope this is the bottom. That'd be very nice to not have to play with those bigger levels of support because, again, it gets very tricky once you start getting accepted back inside this macro profile. So I pray, right, that we do not have to lose this level. Like this would be the first kind of sign of weakness, I would say. Just like flipping this value area low would be the first big sign of strength where you could potentially see the new all-time high as long as you can get above 118.3. I would say this is the first sign of weakness, right? And then at that point, right, does it mean that you're going to go down in a straight line forever into the bear market? No, not necessarily, right? You're going to have some kind of a retracement, right, maybe off the 786. And again, it's going to have everything to do with what the charts look like on that retracement. I can't call what that's going to look like until we have this price action playing out. But I hope the bottom is in. That would be very nice. Let's see. Shout out to Flatsmack. What is going on, bro? Welcome in. Thank you for being here. Yeah, Skull Cruncher says 50K at least. Yeah, and the other thing you can kind of take a look at, right, is your previous macro levels, right? When we take a look at 2021, right, why did, when we, where are we at, right? So you have this macro profile pulled from 2021. Where's it at? Macro VP. Whoops. Do I have the 2021 VP on here? I thought I did. Let me just pull this from here, right? So let's just say if the top is in here, right? Let's measure from the high all the way down to this value area low. This brings you down to 30K, right? That would be big. But yeah, you got that 48 to 50K point of control. So like if I were to like look into the future here, if we wound up going into a massive bear market, you can start to look at this and be like, well, hey, your first major structural highs, right? You look at that previous all-time high at about 67K, right? And it's very similar to the previous bear market, right? Pull up the Bitstamp chart here real quick. Like what happened, right? We came back down to pretty much retest the previous all-time high. We dipped down below it a little bit. I know that's not a perfect level there, right? But this would be kind of similar, right? If you pull that all-time high, and I'm not saying you have to bottom out there, right? But if you dig a little deeper below this all-time high, well, hey, how much lower did we go from here? Let's just measure this, right? It doesn't have to happen perfectly the same. 20%. What is this to about 50K? About 25%, right? So like at this point, right at the top was in here and we were able to identify that when we go into a bear market, what would I be saying? Well, hey, previous all-time high is going to be a huge level of support, right? You also have kind of this area where you were hitting up against that all-time high before the bigger breakout. And on top of that, when you pull up your volume profile, you would be saying to yourself, another huge level of support here. It's a little different on the Bitstamp chart, but on the Bybit chart, right, that POC comes in at about 47.4, right? So if you look to come back down to retest this all-time high, right, about 69K. We all know that was the top. This is a 67.9. I'm not going to try to get that perfect. But, this would be a massive level of support on the way down. Why is that? Well, number one, if you want to go retest that POC for a big bounce to the upside, that could be the case, right? And I wouldn't expect it to play out exactly like that. But, it'd probably be more something like this. Right? Super boring, super confusing, very similar to that, right? But, you would say to yourself, well, hey, if we don't bounce off this level, what does that open the door to? That opens the door down to, $30,000, which would give you a massive correction of 75%. Right? Which is not, in my opinion, off the table. Like I said, guys, people will say, there's no way we're going back to 30K. There's no way we're going back to 50K. They say this every single time, and I don't know what they base it off of. I guess they just base it off of the fact that they want their bags to pump and they don't like calling for lower levels. But for me personally, from a chart perspective, if you got to drop all the way down here, I'm hoping for a hold of this range high. If you break below that POC, the doorway to the value area low at 30,500 is going to be open. But that's kind of how we'll approach it, right? You have to find those key levels on the way down. And again, I think it's pointless at this moment because we can't call confidently that this is definitely the top, right? So once that actually becomes more apparent, then you could have a little bit more of an accurate measurement, start to look at those big key levels down below. And again, there's going to be other big levels of support that you're looking at on the way down, which will probably be coming in this consolidation. And not that I would expect the bottom of the bear market to come in at 90K, but you're going to be looking at all that local support, right? Well, hey, maybe we get a retracement from 92K, right? Lower high, lower low. Now the big target is going to come down into the 60s and 50s, right? Once you start deviating below there, that POC is going to be a massive level to hold, 50K. Right? But again, it's kind of pointless because if we come up, all those levels are going to change. So there you go. Just a little 2 cents there. But yeah, we went over the long term. We went over the short term. So yeah, I would say, just before we move on to the altcoins, guys, big levels to pay attention to. Obviously, all of this is going to be major resistance on the way back up. Whether we come down first or we come up from where we are, major resistance number one 115,533, first sign of strength if we can flip that. Get back up at that point. Highest probability place for price to go is going to be the POC zone, sitting between 117,344 and 118,300. Once we get above there, you're going to start to see me say, hey, guys, might be on our way to all-time highs, right? Because at that point, you have a lot of liquidity up here. It's going to be a very similar situation that we saw here, where we were looking for new all-time highs. What happened? All-time highs, right? But massive resistance levels on the way back down, or on the way back up, and then on the way back down, obviously, you have your major golden pocket. If we break that, we'll do a big update, right? We'll have to reassess the situation and kind of talk about what we're looking for. So there you go. Just be careful of that daily money flow coming out. 16-hour money flow still in the red here as well, which could indicate continuation of the downtrend. You're also below this major anchored VWAP. So yeah, I cannot stress the $115,000 level. This is a huge, huge zone to get above. Because even if you're looking at it from an anchored VWAP perspective, right? It's like if you fake out again, get back down below it, right? This would continue your overall downtrend. If you can flip it, right? If you've seen my anchored VWAP tutorial video, if you can flip this, well, maybe you can continue that bigger uptrend, right? We slipped it here, but then we reclaimed it, got back up, right? So we could see something similar to that. It would change everything, right? So $115,000, your next big level of resistance. 107K is going to be your biggest level of support. Please, for the love of God, I hope we don't lose that level. All right, let's see. Shout out to Flatsmack, said 420K. I guess that's an all-time high prediction. I hope so. I hope so. Definitely not my base case, but I pray. I pray. Just like in 2021, I prayed for 100K, right? I would have loved for 100K to come in, but it just looks so similar to 2021. That's not the first time I've said that. All right, this looks so similar to the 2021 top. Sometimes I point back there like it's the 2021 top. But just like down here, like there were massive signs of weakness here for a bigger drop to the downside. So we'll see. If we wound up getting something different, we would have been looking for higher prices. So a little too soon to call for. And again, it makes a lot of sense, right? Like everybody wants 100K here. We didn't get anywhere close to it, right? If everyone's looking for 200, 300, 500K here, I would have to say it's probably more likely that we don't see that happen, right? So yeah, just keep that in mind. And if there are signs to look for those levels, we'll see them on the chart. Shout out to XRP Belgium. What is going on, bro? He said, Frankie, you're the master of the charts. But considering the global liquidity markets, ETFs, and legislation coming, there's no way the bear market is on, not for a few months. Yeah, XRP Belgium, that is my base case, right? I do not think, I think there is a lower probability that this is the top than it is, right? But again, I will change my tune 100%, right? I have to be able to change my mind, right? Because, I don't know why people feel a need to just stick to their sentiment when there's clear signs to switch it, right? So, yeah, I would say, my base case here is I am expecting new all-time highs at some point, right? We still have some time for the effery. We talked about this on the push to the all-time high. Be careful of the fake out of the all-time high. As a matter of fact, we shorted that bad boy to the downside, right? But my base case is still new all-time highs, but, hey, if something changes there, right, there's no reason. I'm not going to be saying, if I'm expecting the top is in, right, why would I just be, praying that it's not and hoping that it's not, right? Trust me, I've been in situations like that where it's no, but surely we have to hit this target, right? And guess what? You wind up round tripping your bags. Do not do that. But yeah, sure, maybe, I would say every cycle that goes by, this time is different, does get more and more likely. And to be quite honest, right, every cycle has its own quirks. I would say this is the most different a cycle has been so far, right? Which makes sense, right? The further along you go, the more likely it is going to be that this time is different. But again, not going to be my base case scenario, right? For this to be some kind of a golden super cycle. As a matter of fact, when you start seeing people call for that, guys, it's a massive signal that the top is probably in or close to being put in. And that's kind of where I stand right now. The two cases here are either the top is in here, which is too early to call for. That's why it's not my base case. Or we are, even if the top is not in here, I do think we're a lot closer than people realize. Because when the retail starts coming back in, if Bitcoin goes into a huge parabolic move here and we start ripping to the upside, this is where all the retail comes in. This is where they start calling for a super cycle. $1 million is never going back down. Bears are idiots. Get wrecked. But I do think that if this is not the high and we put in new all-time highs, I do still think we are pretty close to the top coming in from a cycle perspective, right? We've covered this cycle chart so many times before, right? These are all the different measurements from the halvings to the all-time highs. We are very close to getting into that range. So it doesn't have to happen on the day or anything like that, but we are very close, right? So I think even if we do put in a new all-time high, it's probably nearing the end here, which is, I know it's depressing, right? I know nobody wants to hear that. But at the end of the day, right, this is what everybody comes to crypto for. They want to see that final phase. This is where, if you came back into 2021 when everything was going crazy and and you bought the top and round tripped your bags, right? Understand you were part of that retail coming in here, which is totally fine. Everybody has to do that at some point, right? But all those people that are going to come in and think that the bull market is just starting, just understand. Just like when people came up here and said, oh my God, 50K, we're going to 100K, this thing is just getting started, we were pretty much at the top, right? It's going to be very similar in this case, at least from my personal stance, right? People are going to think, oh my God, the bull market is just starting. Sure, maybe the altcoins are going to start running finally, but I would say even if this top is not in, right, I would say we are probably nearing the top or a lot closer than a lot of people would like to think. But again, that's the most exciting part. This is what most people wait for. You know, a lot of people don't even buy Bitcoin. They just buy the altcoins, which I think is why the sentiment has been so bad this cycle, because Bitcoin, this has been a great cycle for Bitcoin, right? We are up massively here. This bull market has been going for quite some time. It's one of the cleanest uptrends. It literally looks like if you Google uptrend, this is what it looks like, right? It's like a very, very clean uptrend, but the altcoins have been getting absolutely destroyed, right? So I think this is, and most people, right, a lot of retail thinks like, oh, let me go for the altcoins. That's where I'm going to get rich overnight. That's where I can put $1,000 in and hopefully turn it into $1 million, right? So, you know, I would say the top on Bitcoin at this point, right? Like there's nobody in my personal life that I'm telling it's a good idea to buy Bitcoin, even if I think a new all-time high is coming, which I do, right? You know, because like, what are you going to get here, right? You're going to get, you know, I mean, let's say we go to 140, right? It's 20, 30%, right? You know, if we go to 400K, right? Well, hey, maybe maybe then it's a little bit better. But I do think we are probably closer to the end than this thing just beginning, right? I mean, you could just see this from every cycle. Halving comes in, majority of the move comes in, you know, 525 days after the halving, which is the longest it's taken. Here, it happened a little sooner, right? So, yeah, just understand. Like, when you look at it from a halving perspective, right? Like, this thing is not just getting started, right? Hopefully, we're, you know, just about to see the parabolic top come in, but again, it's like right near the top. And then when you start see people calling for golden super cycle, oh my God, it's never going back down, that makes me a lot more worried, right? So, yeah, hopefully we're not cooked. Hopefully we're not cooked yet. Hopefully we could see that parabolic move come in. But if something changes here, and I don't anticipate that anymore, I just explained to you exactly what I'll be looking at. But if not, if you don't understand it, I'll be here to let you know. So there you go. Don't forget to smash that like button. Shout out to Dave Digital. Says, people buy alts because they're degens. Yeah, shout out to Dave Digital. It's the get-rich-quick mindset. Which, hey, I'm not going to say no one gets rich quick, but it's a lot less than most people think. It's a lot less than most people think, right? Because especially at the top of the bull market, you're seeing like all the screenshots. Oh my God, I made $50 million off $100 on a meme coin, but they don't have the liquidity to sell, right? It's like just super, super top signal. And again, many a times when we see the meme coins going crazy, right, what do we talk about? We're like, hey guys, this is typically a signal of a macro top, not necessarily the top of the bull market, but a macro top. And what do we typically see after that? Every single time, everyone's like, meme coins are going crazy. Oh my God, like everything. And what do we say? We're like, I'm a little bit worried here, guys, right? Like Trump just launched a meme coin. Meme coins are going nuts. This is typically a top signal, not the top signal necessarily, but that's really what you typically see at the top of the market, right? Whether it's the top of the bull market or, and again, on these tops, right, it was much less likely because it would have been like a really early top. And, just from a cycle perspective, it didn't make sense, right? And we talked about that. But, we start seeing that at this point in the cycle, it's going to be a much bigger indicator that it could be the all-time high of the cycle, right? And we don't really have that here, right? Which, again, makes me think like, well, hey, maybe it's not over yet. So, yeah, there you go. Hopefully it helps somebody out there. The 70% Bitcoin, ETH sold, then gamble alts. Yeah, absolutely. Like, listen, guys, I hold a ton of altcoins, right? But again, majority of my portfolio is like Bitcoin, ETH, and Solana, right? And then I take a smaller portion of my portfolio and throw it into altcoins, which is why I've been kind of been able to not feel miserable this entire cycle, right? Obviously, when I check my portfolio on my altcoins, I'm like, dang, this kind of stinks. These things are not pumping. But, obviously, majority of my portfolio is doing very well. So it's been a very Bitcoin-focused cycle. But it doesn't mean the alts will never pump. Again, all those macro signals I just went over are definitely flashing towards a breakout. So there we go. Solana, por favor. Shout out to Ramazza. Shout out to you, man. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at everyone in this chat will be rich. Shout out to Bitfrog. And hey, if you're not going to get rich off your altcoins, listen, guys, if the bear market does come in, whether we put in that big parabolic move or with this is the top, right? Again, you guys know where I stand. I won't repeat it. But just understand, if do not be afraid of the bear market. Like I always try to stress this. I said this in the beginning of my channel. if you're worried about the top of Bitcoin coming in and it pisses you off, right, and it upsets you when someone says, hey, maybe the top is coming in, which a lot of people were upset with me, but that does not bother me at all, right, because we were right. Had people literally DM me and apologize to me. Not that I even knew that they said anything, but they were like, dude, I hated on you so much when you were warning about this, and you saved me so much money, bro, so I have to apologize. The charts are the truth, right? They didn't say it exactly, but they did apologize, right, which I thought was so funny, and it was really validating, right? It's like, well, I actually helped somebody understand how this stuff works, and I actually was able to help them, which was super nice. Yeah, I mean, I would just be careful, right? I do think we are closer to the top than anything. You're going to start seeing people, oh my God, finally the bull market has started. But yeah, I wouldn't say that for Bitcoin. I would say we're probably closer to the top than anything, right? But altcoins obviously still have a lot of room to run with all the macro signals. Looks very good. But let's take a look at Ethereum real quick. I don't have money for BTC. I just invested 4K on ETH. Am I too late, guys? Lol. Shout out to, Charlie Kirk smiled. Bro, that is diabolical, bro. That profile picture is crazy. I mean, hey, depending on when you bought Ethereum, that would depend on whether you're too late or not. I would say, did you get the best entry on Ethereum? I mean, if you bought, recently, you literally bought an ETH at the most expensive it's ever been, right? Or near the most expensive it's ever been. Does that mean that it's not going to go back up? Not necessarily. Did you get the best entry price? No. Because and I'm not saying you did buy up here, but if you did, right, you bought the hype, right? You don't want to do that, right? Because then any of these pullbacks are going to crush, right? You're really going to feel that pain. When do you want to buy? When everybody says it's dead and you're at support with bullish confirmations, right? Where we were saying, I don't know, guys. I don't know how much lower you think this is going to go, right? This is literally the second largest crypto by market cap, right? But what was everyone saying down here? They were like trolling ETH holders. It's usually a good bottom signal. But obviously all depends. If you invested 4K down here or like even down here or even down here, right, well, you're up. That's very nice. But either way, looking at Ethereum, let's go ahead and break this down for you guys really quickly. All right, so we did end up... all right, so we're bouncing off this golden pocket, which is a little interesting, right? Because it's not too far off our previous golden pocket 786 that we bounced off of. But this is pulled to the new high. Let me actually pull this. So yeah, so just understand, like golden pocket's what we're bouncing off of right now. This is just understand, this is just our local profile, guys. Like this is our range that we brought up recently on Ethereum. Value area high sitting at 45.37, POC sitting at 4,079 or 4,080, and then your macro 786 value area low is sitting between 4,000 and 39.30. This is the overall range, right? If we get stuck back inside here and we can't hold this 786 for a bigger bounce to the upside, I would say, even if we don't look at that, if we just look at the local fib here, you start breaking down below this 786, what are you anticipating, right? You're going to be anticipating a crack of this low, which would what? You would, at that point, be accepted into your volume profile, and the next likely place for price to go is to come revisit the fairest value down here at 4,080. Lose the PLC, value area low is next. I will be looking for potential long positions down here on Ethereum. I'll at least be looking for some kind of a bounce down here based off our volume profile. Now, is it probable that we see that bigger continuation down on Ethereum? Well, if we look at our money flow here, 16-hour money flow is doing what, right? Don't take my word for it. Just look at it here. It is coming to the downside. What does this indicate? It potentially indicates the continuation of the downtrend. It doesn't mean that the high is in on Ethereum forever, right? But it could indicate high, low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, maybe to come down and fill this range. Looking at the daily money flow is still pretty thick in the green, which is nice to see. But you do have to be careful of that 16-hour money flow. This would definitely be support, in my opinion. Once you lose this level, I'm looking down towards the macro value area high at 35.28. Huge, 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 huge support down here. And I've covered this looking at Bitcoin in the past. We had seen Bitcoin break above its macro 786. This 786 is pulled from the all-time high all the way to the bear market low, from here to here. Rejected, rejected, rejected. But if you're able to flip it to support, even if you have to come down and retest your range high like Bitcoin did back when it broke out of its major 786, which is literally the same exact level that we're looking at right now. There's your 786 Fibonacci retracement, right? You break above it, you retest it, but then what eventually happens here is you do go back down to retest your previous value area high, right? Your macro bull market range high. And what happens? You get above it, try to hold it, you wick back down to your range high, and then you get the new big all-time high, right? Very similar to Ethereum here. Bull market range. I'll even hide the upper range so it doesn't get confusing. Bull market range, macro 786. This is your doorway to higher prices, but you got to get above it. Rejected, rejected, rejected. Now we're above it. So if it's going to do something very similar to Bitcoin, right, you might be able to see something like this, and we're already kind of creating that range. Get above it. Whoops. Get above it. Boom, 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 right? Even if you see something like that, right, still could be the bigger breakout incoming, right? So my bigger targets for Ethereum are still sitting up here between $5,800 and $6,500. If we get up there and it still looks good, we can look for much higher prices. But at this point, this is that next big target on Ethereum if we can crack back out into all-time highs. But, turbulence can come in here, right? You have that major support down below. And again, weekly money flow, crossing over into the green here. We have the weekly red dot finally. We've been looking at this forever. This has been on the way for quite some time. Weekly red dot can cool you off. 16-hour money flow could indicate the local trend continuing to the downside. I would just hope that we can hold above this range high. If we break down below it, we'll cover some of the lower levels at that point. But the biggest levels on Ethereum for me right now locally will be sitting inside this, will be sitting inside of this upper range. Right? So if you're just looking for local levels, deviation above the high, you get stuck back in here, just like we did back here. Deviate above the high. This is where you want to look for corrections or potentially short positions if you get accepted into the profile. Bearish retest. Next likely place for price to go, POC. Get stuck in here, can't get out. Next likely place for price to go is that POC, and you have the confluence of the money flow coming out on the 16-hour and even the 12-hour as well, right? It does not mean that the top is in forever, though. Hopefully. That would stink. Ethereum makes a new all-time high. It's very similar to Bitcoin when it pushed into new all-time highs, right? When Bitcoin broke when we push into these all-time highs, guys, right? What did we broke this all-time high by very little, right? This is the previous all-time high. How much should we break this by? A 1% new all-time high. I can't help but think of this. It's the same exact place. Squeak above the all-time high, you get the correction, and then finally, eventually, you get the bigger breakout, right? This would kind of be the $5,800 to $6,500 level for Ethereum. It's very similar. Very, very, very similar. Squeak above it, you get your turbulence, right? This is a massive level. This is the all-time high. Eventually looking up towards those levels. So there you go. And obviously, low time frame, 4-hour red dot. I would be careful of potential corrections here. It'd be really nice to hold this value area high and just send it, but I would say be very careful. 4-hour money flow in the red, 4-hour red dot, 15-minute money flow, choppy here. Yeah, be careful of that crossing back over into the red. But I would just say from a higher time frame perspective, it's you can't get out of this range. Even if you play around up here, you get accepted in here. I'm looking for a bigger correction. So there you go. Those are the local levels. 39.34 at the value area low. POC 4,084. Value area high 45.34. So there we go. Just do a quick little check-in on Bitcoin here. What's she doing? She pushing down still, getting a little bounce. Yeah, just very choppy. Wonked out price action. Oh, look at that. Almost filled the wick there. Not quite, though. So yeah. Let's see. Yo, shout out to Crypto Billy in the chat. Welcome in, bro. Said, nobody like Frankie Candles, an entrepreneur's success story. Shout out to Crypto Billy. Thank you for being here, bro, and thank you for the kind words. I appreciate you dropping those sauce cans in the chat. Shout out to Crypto Billy. Holding ETH is just like the 1970 paperwork crisis where Wall Street had to readapt from manual system to new tech. Same thing, they're moving into the blockchain 24/7. Hashtag ETH. With the lip bite emoji. That's one of my new favorite emojis, guys. Lip bite emoji is crazy. Yo, shout out to Crypto Pollo in the chat. Welcome in. Said range. Shout out to Crypto Pollo. Yeah, that is the brutality. I always prefer, honestly, I would prefer a bigger dump than just ranging price action. Ranging price action is absolutely brutal for content. But yeah, we will take a look. I'll take a look at Solana XRP. We'll take a look at Cardano. We'll take a look at Crow. I know Crow's pumping. And maybe we'll take some requests from the chat. Please do not super chat your altcoins. I will just take them from the free chat. But, just a reminder here, guys, let's just assume, let's pretend that we think the all-time high is in, right? If this is the all-time high, there is no better time to learn how to trade. I'll bring it back to 2021. I started my channel somewhere in here, right? And, this does not worry me, right? It's like, oh my God, like, you know, I would tell everybody, I would tell the mafia back at this point, talking about how, you know, if you're upset that the bear market might be here, there's no better time to learn how to trade, because this is just as profitable. Maybe not as profitable just because you can't make money on your spot bags here. But if you learn how to trade, guys, there is massive volatility to the downside, is just opportunity to make money on shorts. So there's no better time to learn how to trade than in a bear market. And at the end of the day, if you're going to learn how to trade in a bear market, you know, then you have to go to the bottom of the bear market, which is a very difficult place to trade. But if you are able to do that, right, once you get into the bull market, it's like it becomes a very easy trading environment, right? So not only are you doubling your opportunity to make money, a lot of people just like wait for the bull market. I'll make money in the bull market and then I'll be able to quit my job if I make a bunch of money, right? But 99% of people will buy the top, hold their bags to the bottom. But, you know, it's much easier to kind of make money on the way up and take profits when you know that eventually when you go into the bear market, there's going to be another huge opportunity to make money. Bull market, pretty much just another bull market. We don't care if candles are going up or down. We make money in both ways, right? So this is just a second bull market on the way back down. So no better time to learn how to trade than, you know, if a bear market is coming in, right? So just understand that. A lot of people get upset. Oh, my God, the bear market. Now I have to disappear until the next bull market. I'm never going to make any money. It's like, what do you mean, right? You can make tons of money in this. We made tons of money in this, right? So, yeah, hopefully, you know, if you are looking at, you know, and in my opinion, right, it's like, why not learn a skill, right, that can allow you to make money on your own terms wherever you want in any market condition, ranging sideways, up or down, you can make money, right? So it's like, sure, your spot bags aren't pumping in a bear market, but, you know, what are you doing? Not only are you making money on the way down, but you're also paying attention in the most important part of the market, right? If you're trading all of this, you're inevitably going to be up to date with what is going on, and you're going to have a better idea of when you should be actually dollar cost averaging in, right? So on the way back down, you're just living your life, making money, trading on the way down. And then, you know, once you start to identify like, hey, wow, this actually starts to look like a bottom because you're learning how to trade, you're learning how to do TA, and you're like, hey, this looks like a macro bottom, right? I've been looking for 15-minute bull divs and bear divs to trade these moves to the downside, but now I'm seeing this signals on a high time frame. What does this mean? Well, hey, maybe we're looking for another bull market. And then that's where you can start to, because you're paying attention to the market, because you're active when you should be. The reason most people don't make money in crypto is because they become active at the wrong time, right? They come in at the tops. And if this cycle has not been a clear indicator of that, people coming at the top, oh my God, bear market, oh my God, bear market. Like they just get chopped. They get in here, they get out. They get in, they get out. Chop, 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 chop. And then eventually, when they get the big breakout, it's in the news. Their cab drivers good Lord, what year are we in? Uber drivers telling them what to buy. They're thinking like, oh my God, now I got to get in, right? And then they come in, and then the bear market comes in. They're like, screw this, I'm getting out. And what happened? They didn't make any money. They hate crypto. They're probably not coming back next time, right? And if they do, hopefully they don't repeat the same mistakes. But if you're actually learning how to trade, you're inevitably going to be paying attention to the market when when you should be, right? If you were paying attention down here, if you were watching this channel down here, you were picking up a lot of stuff, especially Bitcoin, right, at the right time before the massive bull market. You're not coming in at the tops and getting frustrated on the pullbacks. You have your entry prices in down here. And that's another reason why learning how to trade in a bear market is great, right, because it keeps you involved at the time where you should be paying attention. People think they should be waiting until Bitcoin's in the news to pay attention, but guess what? You get in up here and you missed out on a good opportunity, right? Sure, you're still in profit, but you know how much better it would be to buy down here. So yeah, but anyway, let's continue on here. We took a look at ETH. Let's go ahead and take a look at Solana real quick. Now, Solana, we actually covered very briefly in the beginning of the stream. We're just cooking here, guys. Like, you know, I am still looking for a potential push up into this POC, right? Even if we get a bigger correction, right, we are well within our macro volume profile. What does that mean? Well, you know, if we're within this profile, as long as we remain above this value area low, which is sitting right here at about 183.91, the doorway to that POC is open, which is also confluent with your golden pocket. This sits between 217 and about 226. And at the end of the day, you could potentially anticipate a full fill of the range. Right? We've already looked for the low, the high, the higher low, the higher high, which we did get, right? But at this point, as long as we can remain in this profile, it might be sketchy, it might be confusing. I will be looking for that POC golden pocket zone as our next major target to the upside. And keep in mind, this will be exciting. But if you push into this resistance and you start getting a pullback, you're going to expect resistance at resistance, right? It's not, oh my God, Solana's pumping, I want to buy, right? It's, a pullback from here would be anticipated, right? But an eventual continuation up, flipping this level to support, would call for a push into a $237 value area high. And this does start at about 231 because you have the monthly. But I would just still say your major target is still sitting up here. We're just kind of waiting. Solana's tried to hit this many times. Tried to hit it, right? But I will say this is still that biggest target. And until we lose that value area low, there's no reason to look much lower. If we start losing this, right, well, then we can start to look at, hey, maybe we can come on down to the liquidity here. We actually have a level here, bounce after an SFP, because we do have a lot of liquidity sitting down here, as we looked at on a previous live stream when we were looking at the heat maps. There's a lot of liquidity sitting down here, right? So if we do get a drop, could look for bounces there, and then maybe you reclaim the range and go again, right? This has been a very choppy volume profile, to be quite honest. If we lose that level, 786 at $167 is the next big level, right? We also have the anchored VWAP pulled all the way from down here on the April lows. That will very likely, if we come down there, be confluent either with the 786 or this liquidity zone on the daily at about 173.05. These are the two biggest levels that I would be looking at if you lose the volume profile. But until you lose this value area low, I would say doorway to that POC is still open. Doorway to the value area high is still open. So there you go. That's what I'd be looking at on Solana. Taking a look at the 16-hour, money flow kind of faked out into the red, back in the green. Do have to be a bit careful here that you don't continue trending out, especially with Ethereum coming out as well. We'll have to wait for that to develop. There's nothing really I could take away from that. Taking a look at the daily green dot printing. 90-minute money flow, and no market cipher B1/16 there. So yeah, I would pay more attention to the levels than market cipher at this point. 2-day money flow still looking pretty healthy. Let's check the weekly money flow, still looking healthy. But again, his weekly red dot, same thing on Ethereum. Guys, watch that weekly red dot for another pullback. That weekly red dot is here. But money flow indicates the longer-term trend. Red and green dots, green dot, red dot, green dot, red dot, green dot, red dot, green dot. That's red dot, green dot, red dot, green dot, red dot, green dot. The green dots and red dots indicate the ebbs and flows in the market. Money flow indicates the overall trend. This will help you understand where you should be buying the dip or looking for long positions, or if money flow is coming out and crossing over the zero line to go into the red, this is where you would be saying, hey, I'm going to look to short lower highs to what? Continue the downtrend for lower highs and lower lows. So when we look at Ethereum or Solana, right, because Solana has that weekly red dot looking to print as well, well, hey, if this red dot prints, what are we looking for? We'll look for an ebb or flow, right, or an ebb or flow to the downside, whether it's here or here, right? Once we break down, then we can look at the bigger levels. But money flow would indicate the overall trend will continue up. People freak out over these pullbacks, right? People freaked out about this pullback. They freak out about this pullback. But your money flow indicates the trend is continuing up. And this is a very nice explosive move for Ethereum as you're pushing up against all-time highs. So there you go. So that's what I would look at on Solana. All those levels pretty much remain the same. Just be careful that weekly red dot. It could give you the pullback. So just be careful. Something like this, I would love, right? If I don't even know if you're going to get this opportunity, but if you can get something like this, like maybe even something like that, if you have to push down to the 786, that would still be pretty decent in my opinion. I would much prefer to take the liquidity here and not come down here, but, that level is there. Let's see. Can we shout out to Hitesh said, hey, Frankie, can you talk about a bear trap scenario at 92K and then back up to all-time highs, or there isn't much time left for it? Shout out to Hitesh. That's a great question, bro. And, I will say we did actually talk about that macro volume profile, right, coming down to the 92K level. I will pull that up, right? You do have the value area low. You also have your macro golden pocket. But at that point, right, I would say, right, it is going to be a little bit sketchy, right? Because if you break back down into this volume profile, we all know POC value area low could be next. If we come down here, is it impossible to get the higher low and the higher high? No. But again, like I said earlier in the stream, it's all going to depend on what the weekly money flow looks like on the way up, right? We have to identify what is this. And like I said with the money flow, right? This is your zero line on money flow, right? Zero line. Well, actually, let me actually pull this up real quick. All right, I'll pull off everything except for the money flow, right? And I actually will keep your zero line there. Right? So you have your zero line. When you cross below the zero line, it turns red. When you cross above the zero line, it turns green, right? So, when you look at 2021, it's like, at this point, I did not have my, you would look at this, right, as a potential low high, higher low on the golden pocket for a higher high for a continuation of the uptrend potentially, right? But it's going to be, whether you're looking for that higher low, like I just mentioned in that little illustration that I brought up or drew, whether you're going to get a high probability higher low for a higher high is going to be based off your money flow. And you could even see here, like, earlier signs were on the 4-day, right? Because the weekly is going to move slower than the 6-day. The 6-day is going to move slower than the 5-day. The 4-day is going to move faster than the 5-day, right? Like, the higher up in time frames you go, the slower the money flow moves. So when you're looking at this, and, if you come back into bar replay mode, I'll just break this down, right? You might look at this and you might say, oh my God, hey, we got a nice golden pocket here. Even if you pull it locally, like, oh my God, this is the 786. This could be a low, high, higher, low, higher, high, higher, low, higher, high. This could be an area to put in a higher low at. But is it probable? Not really. Why? Look at your money flow here on the high time frames. 4-hour money flow is continuing out. What would you be looking at that point? This is why I say you have to wait for price action to develop, right? Because if money flow is still in the green here, you could look for the higher low and the higher high. But because it's crossing out, what does this indicate? This indicates the overall trend will continue down. So what would you be looking for here? You would not be looking for higher lows for massive new highs. What you would be looking at, or better off looking at, would be looking for retracements to the upside for lower highs and lower lows. Because if this is indicating that money flow and trend is going to continue to the downside, why would you be looking for this to break out? Right? This is why money flow is so nice to look at, because it identifies the longer term trend. And I don't know if you push up into this golden pocket or a local golden pocket, but can't make it up. Right into the golden pocket, right? So you would be much better off looking for a short position into the golden pocket, right, for a lower high and a lower low, indicated by the money flow. If money flow looked like this, and it was in the red crossing into the green, well, that's a case where I would be looking for a better scenario of a long for a higher low and a higher high, because money flow is coming up, but that wasn't the case, right? Money flow was crossing out, meaning lower high, lower low. It's going to be the same thing this time, right? The TI doesn't change. So that's kind of what I'm going to be looking at, right? So like if we do get all the way down here and we start to bounce, sure, this is a golden pocket, opportunity for a higher low and higher high. Same thing with this, possibility for a higher low and higher high. But if your money flow is crossing into the red, which is not quite yet, but I mean, for what it's worth, it is trending down, right? If we come down here and money flow is crossing into the red or just continuing to the downside, what's the better play? Lower high, lower low. Especially if it's happening on the weekly. So it's the same thing if you come on down to this golden pocket. Sure, it's an area where you can put in a macro higher low for a higher high, but what's your money flow doing? This is why I say on the move up, it's all eyes on the money flow. Because if that money flow is coming to the downside, you're going to be looking for lower highs and lower lows. And when you start to look at the 4-day, the 5-day, the 6-day, and the weekly, which obviously weekly is still pretty healthily in the green here, if that money flow is tanking to the downside on those retracements, well, hey, that makes it much more probable that the top is in. Does that make sense? Hopefully that helps break it down for you, right? So I would say, it could be a bear trap, but just understand, if the money flow is coming out, I'm not going to be looking at that as a bear trap. I'm going to be looking for lower highs and lower lows. And you might say to yourself, but Frankie, what about, this is the weekly, like, let's say 4-day money flow. Like, what about, I mean, you don't really ever, even the 4-day money flow is nice to look at, but, you only got one fake out into the red here. But, even the 4-day money flow, it's like this late in the cycle, if this money flow is bleeding to the downside, if this is happening this late in the cycle, the lower high and lower low is probably going to be a very large lower high and lower low, right, for a potential bear market to come in. But we can't say that until we have the information on the chart, until we start bouncing off that 786, until we start bouncing on the golden pocket. That's where you have to pay attention to those retracements and the money flow either coming out or coming back up. So that's my thought process. Could it be a bear trap? Sure, right? We will be looking for bounces there. But if we start pushing up, what will I be saying? It's the same thing inside these ranges, same thing inside these ranges. If money flow is coming out, lower highs and lower lows, like, I brought this up before. I brought this range up before. Right? Did I think this was the bear market? Absolutely not. Was I anticipating macro lower highs and lower lows to continue? Yes. Why? Look at your money flow on the daily. Come on. Come on, Market Cipher. We'll get your money flow on the 2-day, right? Lower highs, lower lows. Now, why didn't I think this was the top of the bull market? Well, from a cycle perspective, we still have time to come up and put a new all-time high in, right? Also, your weekly money flow is still pretty healthily in the green, right? So it's, from at this point, now that we're approaching very, very late stages of the cycle, you have to look at that as those high time frame money flows this late in the cycle could be the money flow crossovers to send you into something like this. So, back here, I'm much more willing to see a 3-day money flow crossover into the red and not indicate the bear market. But when you start seeing it happen this close to where the tops have come in, it gets more and more dangerous that the high is in. So it's all about waiting for the retracement and then analyzing your money flow as you come up, right? So if you watch the show every day, right, even back here, what were we saying, right? I was saying, hey, guys, if we bounce here, I'm looking for lower highs and lower lows. The reason it wasn't calling for the bear market was because we still had a lot of time left. Now we're running out of time. So it's a different situation on this time, right? But it's the same idea, right? We come live and we say, well, hey, guys, we're bouncing, but I'm going to be careful of lower highs and lower lows. We'll be looking for shorts in the premium Discord for the continuation down, and we get it. It's going to be the same thing in the current price action, but the chances of a macro high or low coming in are going to be much, much less likely because here, sure, the daily money flow was in the red, but the weekly money flow was still in the green, right? So it is, right? Weekly money flow is still in the green. So, but here, it might look a little different, right? Now that we're at those late stages, would indicate that the top could be coming in, or it might already be in. So there you go. Let's see. Frankie's new chair. Frankie's new chair equals dump. Tino with no hair equals dump. Shout out to Dutchy. Did Tino from Treasure Reality shave his head? Shout out to Tino. New look, baby. Dizzy Gang says bear market. Diddy market. Shout out to Dizzy Gang. I think the biggest bear trap to all-time high would be the dip below MicroStrategy average Bitcoin cost and let people panic sell before short squeezing to all-time high. Shout out to Leverage Left On. That's a sick name. Maybe. If we shout out to Jetstack said, Frank, if you go lower on BTC, what's the line in the sand for you to sell your spot bags? And are you already starting to unload a little bit? Respect to Throw Goat, to the Goat. Shout out to Jetstacks. I appreciate you, bro. And again, this would be more. I mean, listen, I am not someone who really will just like panic sell on a dump, right? Because oftentimes, like on big leverage flushes or something, it's like, if you've ever been in the market when you're just seeing like massive dumps, right? It gets very scary and you're probably thinking like, oh my God, I should sell. For me, I would be selling into the retracement. So again, right, let's say, this would not be the only fib I would look at, but let's just say, we're having the retracement. We break our key levels that make us suspicious, and we start to retrace. Money flow is coming out on the biggest key time frames. At that point, I might be looking to offload in my Bitcoin, at least, into that retracement, right? But sometimes in these retracements is where you see alt season happen. So if that is the case, and again, we don't know that until it happens, it would be inside of this retracement where I would be looking at potentially offloading some of my bags. And I've already taken a little bit of profit on my Bitcoin on our first tap of our major key level, which was up here. I took very small profits, right? Not full profits in anticipation of that being the top, but as I was buying all the way down here, I was in massive profits. This was my bull market target number one, literally to the exactly. So I did take a little bit of profits here. But, the situation there would be like, it wouldn't be like if Bitcoin pushes below a level, right? And, at the end of the day, that could be dangerous, right? Because, I don't know, if you just go down in one straight line, maybe you miss it. But for me personally, right, like I would rather not panic sell, right? Let's say like you get a big drop like this. Like I would not panic sell into, I'll pull up 2021, right? Like panic selling into the drop is never really a great idea. Not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, guys. But right, like, am I going to panic sell on this? I would much rather, dollar cost average or start taking more profits on a retracement to the upside, right? The one problem there is if you, very unlikely are you just going to get like one big daily candle down to the bear market, right? So it's like you don't want to, oh my God, right? Like if you're looking for those lower highs, you want to be like offloading on those retracements, right? So it'd be a situation where I would be looking here, right? Saying, oh my God, this looks like the bear market might be coming in. This could be a macro lower high before the bear market. That's where I would be selling into, right? It wouldn't be like on the scary drop. So yeah, hopefully it helps you out. Not that you have to do that. That's just me personally, right? Hey, if we go down one massive red candle to the bear market, maybe I round trip, but I doubt it. So there you go. Shout out to JetStack said the best calves that money cannot buy. Get a peek if you can. Shout out to JetStacks. Maybe we'll show a little bit of calf at the end of the stream. If you guys smash that like button, or maybe we should show the calves to get people to smash the like button. But let's go ahead and continue on. We took a look at ETH, took a look at Bitcoin. Let's take a look at Crow real quick. Not on OKX. Let's take a look at Bybit, right? So obviously Crow getting a massive push up. Obviously there was news pushing this up. However, again, exchange tokens getting the pop to the upside, guys. This is another kind of early warning sign. Even, I mean, BNB as well, right? BNB putting in the new all-time high. We got BNB putting in new all-time highs. Not BNB. BNB. Putting in new all-time highs, right? Like, we got Crow starting to get the pop to the upside. These exchange tokens starting to rip, especially with Ethereum up against all-time highs. This is typically, I broke this down in a market update as well on like why this is the case. This is oftentimes an indicator that the alts might start to move, right? This is a alt season indication, right? Especially with the RTY breaking out, especially with ETH pushing up against its all-time highs, the weekly money flow crossing over into the green. This is nice, right? Of course, there is some kind of news event to happen, but it's just interesting that it's happening at this part of the cycle. Show me the news. Show me the charts. I'll tell you the news every single time. So yeah, I not really much else to look at here. Weekly, 6-day money flow crossing over into the green. Weekly money flow crossing over into the green. This is a massive signal. Crow weekly money flow crossing over into the green. This is the equivalent to Bitcoin's weekly money flow crossing into the green. Where did that happen, guys? It happened as the bottom was already in. Right? Weekly money flow faked into the green here. Got the real crossover right here. Either way, bottom was in. Bull market. Right? So when you look at something like Crow, weekly money flow crossover, the overall anticipation of the trend here would be a big continuation up. If that red dot prints on the weekly, maybe you pull back, but the overall trend continuation would be anticipated to be to the upside. Taking a look at BNB. Well, I'll just pull it up on Binance, right? Where that weekly money flow crossover into the green? Right about here, before the overall continuation to the upside. Weekly money flow crosses green, low, high, higher, low, higher, high, higher, low, higher, high. Boom, there's your trend to the upside. It's not that you don't get scary dumps to the downside, but that money flow is always, keep this in mind when you're looking at things like Ethereum. Oh my God, it's a bear market, oh my God. Like this market is so emotional, it cracks me up, right? Money flow crossover into the green would indicate that you have to anticipate pullbacks. And there's that weekly red dot. But the overall anticipation would be the continuation of the uptrend. Is that 100% guaranteed? No. But it is just happening at an eerie time with all the other macroeconomic indicators. So there you go. XRP. Yeah, let's jump into XRP real quick. So on XRP... All right, so we have been looking at this recently. I have this kind of like new range pulled. I'll bring up the other chart as well, but we had this major resistance level between the daily MPOC of running all the way up to this weekly level here at about $3.19, macro anchored VWAP. I mean, this is your biggest resistance level on XRP, right? This thing is just kind of bing-bonging around, right? Like there's nothing really, like everybody gets so emotional. Oh my God, big drop. Oh my God, big pump. Oh my God, big drop. Oh my God, big pump. Like we're just kind of chilling up here. Right? So, again, rate cuts, all these other macro indicators, like we're kind of just waiting. We're kind of just waiting here, guys. And I can give you the local levels, obviously, if you want to take, if you were looking to take some trades. And again, I said this on Monday, like I had alert set up here and I opened up the XRP chart and I was like, oh, I was actually looking to short this. And we talked about it when we marked out this level, right? I'm like, I have my alert set. I'm interested in shorts up here. And literally, like, we tapped it and insta-dump to the downside. And at that point, I was like, I got to wait for a retracement. We never really got the retracement and just headed down. I'm not mad that I missed that short position. Why? Because if I really wanted to, you can catch the long, you can catch the short. I've been trading Bitcoin more. But just because of all the confluence up here, I was actually really interested in a high probability rejection here. And all we had to do was squeak in and get the big dump. But overall, got down to the value area low, deviated below. We're back inside here. So I would say locally, your key level of support is going to be sitting at about 291. As long as you could stay inside here, the doorway to your, I can get rid of this now because that's tapped. I can get rid of this now because that's tapped. I can get rid of this now because that's tapped. Right? But now it's like, hey, you're inside your volume profile. Your key level support is the value area low. If you could stay inside here, doorway to the POC is open. We front ran this POC. right? So, I would say stay above the value area low. Doorway to this zone is still open. This is still major resistance. You have your macro golden pocket, POC of the range, weekly horizontal, and your anchored VWAP from the all-time high. So major resistance here, but if you could flip that, well, hey, maybe you could fill the range in full up to the value area high, 335. But what happens if we go for the bigger retracement down? Well, this is where I'm going to pull up that next major range or major chart, high time frame chart, I guess. Can't talk. I would say if you break down below that, I'm not anticipating this golden pocket to really hold well for a second time. But, if we just wind up getting stuck under here, biggest level to look at on XRP, in my opinion, before I start getting a little suspicious, is going to be sitting between 250 and 260. So it's still sitting down there. From a high time frame perspective, weekly red dot has been confirmed, holding up pretty well, to be quite honest with you. I would say locally you have your green dot printing. 15-minute money flow cracking into the green as well. It's not pretty. It's kind of choppy, right? And I said this in the beginning of the stream. I do anticipate a lot of chop here coming up. But I'd probably pay attention to these local levels right now. It's not until we wind up getting like the big breakdown of this low. Like if you crack this low, that's where I'm looking for 250 to 260. But until then, just watch this local range. Value area low sitting at 291. POC sitting at 318. Or I'm sorry, POC sitting at 314. Value area high sitting at 335. You have confluence on this golden pocket potentially. Yeah. So if you're looking for bounces here, you can look for this golden pocket 786. Lose that 786. Might be headed down to that 250 to 260 level. But yeah, this would be the local chart I would look at. Long term, 250 to 260 is still that bigger level of support, in my own personal opinion. So there you go. Perry said on XRP, money flow is not suspicious on the higher time frames. Weekly money flow is thick in the green here. Plenty of room to come down and still continue this larger trend to the upside. Right? We could check the 6-day. Yeah, 4-day might be doing something weird. This thing has been picking dandelions in the outfield. Yeah, 4-day money flow coming out. VWAP is kind of rounded off here. 3-day money flow just crossed back over into the green in the beginning of July, right? So that still is coming up. VWAP coming up as well. 2-day money flow is coming out as well, but this could also turn into a much bigger wave, right? These 2-day money flow crossovers could, you have to see what these green dots do, right? If these green dots give you big pushes up and that money flow comes back up, not suspicious. If you get the green dot and then like a VWAP fake out where this just continues into a downtrend, sure, that would be a little bit suspicious to me. But high time frame like the weekly, this has just gotten a big pop to the upside. So there's plenty of room to correct and still see that weekly money flow cross back, continue into that bigger wave. Even a 2-day money flow crossover might not be like the worst, even if this crosses into the red, maybe that's what gives you the push down to 250, 260, maybe even 230 for a bigger move up. But you just got to kind of wait out this chop. Unless you're trading the shorter time frames, like I would say, I would be anticipating new all-time highs for XRP, but not forever, right? If we start losing that 786 at 230, right? And if this thing doesn't start moving soon, we do have to get moving pretty soon in my own personal opinion. So, 2-day money flow could kind of go into the red. It doesn't always mean like on altcoins. XRP is kind of a hard coin to show this as because it ranges for so long. But 2-day money flow crossovers are not always as bearish on like an altcoin as it will be on Bitcoin, right? Like sure, we got the 2-day money flow crossover here, massive drop to the downside, but it's it indicates the trend, right? But when you look at the weekly, it's like your money flows in the green on the weekly. Even if you fake out here, like this is the bigger signal. So like even with this little fake out into the red, like these weekly money flow crossovers are so much bigger than something like a 2-day. So that's where you can kind of anticipate low, high, higher, low, higher, high. That 2-day money flow might just indicate the more internal downtrend. So for XRP, that would kind of look like 2-day money flow crossover, internal downtrend, maybe to the 250, 260, or 786 before that weekly rounds back up and gives you another move up. So I would say the weekly looks pretty good. 2-day does look a little suspicious. That's not wrong. This is trending out. But you're also about to print a green dot. So I would see what that green dot gives us on the 2-day. Shout out to Jay Gilly said, I'll have you know I eat nails and bite noodles. Shout out to Jay Gilly. I don't even know what that means. You eat nails for breakfast, baby? Let's go. H-bar, yeah, we can take a look at H-bar. No problemo. Shout out to Usman said, brother, are you expecting ETH to test 4680 before going down if it has to? Expecting ETH to test 4680. I mean, it could. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you're looking to print a 45-minute green dot. See here, 4-hour red dot. I wouldn't say it needs to, right? Like maybe. I mean, I don't know what you're looking at down there. Yeah, like 4680. I don't know. I don't know what the significance of that is. Maybe something like maybe to come up and sweep some liquidity. But I would assume, if you were going to sweep that liquidity, you probably would have done it here. So not necessarily. I'm not saying it's impossible. But I don't know. Yeah, I would kind of need more information on that. But yeah, one thing I can say is getting stuck underneath this value area high. That's probably going to give you the bigger drop to the downside. Eating swords is cooler than nails. Shout out to Singularity. Yo, those sword swallowers are crazy. Those sword swallowers are got some insanity. Shout out to Crypto Pollo. Said we're going to crack that low. Trend and structure is screaming in your face. Shout out to Crypto Pollo. Let me know what you're looking at on Bitcoin potentially. Which would be kind of the anticipation there, honestly, on Bitcoin. Coming down to like a 4-hour, right? Money flow in the red here. High, low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. I mean, I'm not saying you have to crack down to 102. But, yeah, like I would not be shocked here if we come and take that low again. Just same thing here, right? Like, would not be surprised if we take that low again. Wouldn't be surprised if we take this low again. Still, we have that untapped golden pocket down there. So I don't know. Shout out to Crypto Pollo. Oh, on XRP. Let's see. Which obviously, I mean, honestly, if we're expecting that on Bitcoin, right? Like you'd probably expect it on the alts as well. So that would actually make sense. Yeah, to sweep this low. I mean, yeah, I mean 4-hour high or low. But yeah, I would say, yeah, maybe you're talking about this low. I would want to see the liquidity heat map there, actually. Let's take a look here. XRP. I assume that's the low that you're talking about there, Pollo. Let's take a look here. What is that low? 272. Let's pull up like a 2-week. 277. Where is that low? Yeah, so there's your 277 low, and then your 272, 273 low. So, yeah, 270. Yeah, that 277's got some liquidity. Let me pull up a 3-week or a 1 month. Because if you can see that hotspot on the heat map, it could mean 278, 272. I would say a majority of the liquidity is actually sitting down here at 278. Definitely more. And not that this has to be like to the dollar accurate. But, I mean, yeah, if you sweep out all this liquidity coming down to that 72, you could sweep that low as well. But, yeah, the idea here could be, right, massive untapped low, massive untapped low. And then let me pull this local golden pocket really quick. What is this? Oh, that was a measured move, I believe. But let me see this on the other chart. Yeah, 272. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't expect this to hold up as support. But either way, right, you would think to yourself, right, well, hey, you got liquidity sitting down there. Clearly you have liquidity sitting down here, and that's even visible on the heat map. So these would definitely be lows where I would be watching for potential liquidity sweeps. Because if you look at it from the local perspective as well, I don't know. I mean, you lose that 786, I'd look to take this low. So, yeah, potential liquidity sitting down here. And then bigger level down here, which does not have visible liquidity, but doesn't mean that's not there. And if you could put in, if you can get that to line up with some bull divs or something like that, it's kind of hard to front run there. Yeah, I like to see these liquidity sweeps line up with bullish divergences, right? So it's like if you had a daily momentum wave that was like this, right? And then you could come in and SFP those lows for a bigger bounce to the upside and get nice bullish divergences. That would be very nice. Too soon to front run that, but yeah, I would say on the heat map, most liquidity sits between below 278. But hopefully we could just stay in this range. That would be very nice. But yeah, I would expect some kind of just chop. I mean, for the altcoins, I think it's going to be a waiting game. Let's see. Can we check Arrow? Yeah, we could take a look at Arrow. I think I have an Arrow chart here. Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, I haven't really been covering the altcoins as in detail. I say that, but we actually do. I always say I'm not going to cover them in detail because, like, really not much has changed here. Yeah, we rejected the value area high. Doorway to the POC is open, right? I mean, this is the next target within the profile. Is it possible? I mean, 10-hour money flow coming out, 8-hour money flow coming out, 16-hour money flow is actually coming up. Daily money flow is flat. 2-day money flow coming out, 3-day, 4-day. I would still say longer term, guys. Like sure, chop, right? You have the 10-hour, 8-hour, 6-hour money flow trending out as well. So moves down are possible. POC will be the next target, sitting here at about $1.18. Lose the POC, looking down towards the golden pocket, which is the macro golden pocket. This is a huge level of support here, about $1.04. Huge level of support. Right, you could look for bounces off the POC, but if that money flow is continuing out here on something like the 6 and the 8-hour, lower highs and lower lows could be anticipated to fill that range in full, and then this would be your big level of support. So that's what I would look at. Golden pocket value area low sits here between $1.06 and $1.02, and then your POC sits here at about $1.18. So yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I would stick with these levels. $1.18 to $1.05 to $1.02 at the value area low, and then I would just say $1.18 to $1.17 at the POC. These are your biggest levels of support. Continuation to like 6-hour money flow would indicate lower highs, lower lows. But again, taking a look at those higher time frames, like 3-day money flow crossover into the green, right? Like you can see even money flow trending up is indicating the trend will continue to the upside. But you're going to get those pullbacks. You're going to get those pullbacks. You're going to get those pullbacks, right? So something like that might not be super out of the question. So, yeah, that's what I would look at on Arrow. And then even if, maybe if you can get a little 4-hour bull div into this, could get a nice little bounce to the upside. But again, with that 8-hour money flow, you got to be careful of the lower highs and lower lows. But for a local bounce off that POC, could have an opportunity to look for that 4-hour bull div into the point of control. And then, maybe that turns into, my target for this would not just instantly be new all-time highs, right? I would probably be looking, let's say you push into exactly into the POC, right? And you do get those bull divs. Maybe it's on the 4-hour. Maybe it's on the 5-hour, right? Maybe it's even on the 3-hour. But my target for that would probably be looking into the Fibonacci retracements, because if money flow continues out, you could capitalize on this little bounce of 11, 12%. But if you're looking for a continuation of that downtrend here, probably want to take some profits. And if it runs, then, hey, you can move your stop loss to break even, take some money off the table. And if it runs, you can hold a portion of the trade. But if not, you'll get stopped out in profit. So yeah, I would look for like maybe an intraday bounce from this level, and possibility of it turning into something bigger is there. But again, what's money flow look like on the way back to the upside? So yeah, that's what I would look at. And then even if you pull this from like a local profile perspective, that's a pretty big deviation below your low. And then if you start pulling your fibs there, it's like I can almost guarantee you, right? Yeah, I mean, even if you push into that POC, like what you have confluence on that resistance now. Value area low, golden pocket, 786, right? So breakdown out of the range. Sure, you might be able to ride that move to the upside, and then if you flip this 786 POC zone, then you can look for a bigger continuation up. But if you're looking for lower highs, lower lows here, this would be big resistance. So yeah, because you could look at that as technically a deviation below your volume profile, right? This is where you want to be looking for longs to get back into your range, flip the POC, go back up to the high. But because of the context and money flow coming out, I would definitely be careful around there. So there you go. That's what I would be looking at on Arrow. Shout out to Jake. Is that Jake from State Farm? Shout out to Jake. Welcome in, bro. Welcome in. Jupe. Yeah, we could try to take a look at Jupe. Yeah, so Jupe getting the bounce off the POC, which is obviously always going to be key support. Money flow. Let's check the daily here real quick. Yeah, I mean, you're within your range. Your approach from the high, deviation above. This is where you're looking for shorts. Break back into the range, can't get out. POC is next. You got your bounce off the POC. Money flow came back up here, at least on the daily. Pull some fibs here real quick. So you got your high. Your lower high came right in on that golden pocket for a lower high and a lower low. Pull it from the lower high to the lower low. Another rejection from your golden pocket. Yeah, let me see the 4-hour money flow real quick. I would be careful here. I would be careful here for two reasons. Number one, when you reject from the high, right, you come in, get back into your range, POC is next. Sure, you could bounce off the POC, but if that money flow starts coming out, you are potentially looking, the final target for the move after you lose that value area high is to look to go to the low. You have an opportunity to hold this POC as support, but we've kind of already gotten the big bounce off of it, right? And what did it result in, right? This is pulled from the low to the high. If you're looking for higher lows and higher highs, you want that higher low to come in here. Right now, that higher low has resulted in another lower high. So I know lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. I know it sounds very confusing, but with money flow right now, especially on the 4-hour, money flow low-key choppy, right? Like this is impossible to analyze. It's like, oh my God, it's in the red. Oh my God, it's in the green. Red, green, red, green, red, green, right? That just happens in a choppy market. But I would definitely be a little bit suspicious. I mean, you're getting stuck under your anchored VWAP here. Lose this POC, I'm looking down to that 786. Because, I mean, these are still the biggest levels of support, right? And this is, what we were looking at. Opportunity for a higher low and a higher high. You can't really get out of this range, though. So if you get stuck under this anchored VWAP, lose the POC, next place to look for a big bounce will be at the value area low 786 at about 40 cents. So that's what I would look at. Let's see. H-bar. Yeah, we can take a look at H-bar. And again, guys, like all the sentiment on all of these altcoins are going to be all the same, right? This is why I haven't really been, at least as of right now, haven't really been covering too much. Again, I say that and then cover them like crazy, but it just gets repetitive, right? Because it's like I'm going to be anticipating almost all of the altcoins to follow the same path, right? If Ethereum gets a pullback, all the other altcoins are going to follow, right? This is just how the market moves. What is our H-bar chart on? It's got to be MEXC, no? There it is. All right. So let's see here. Ugh, just chop, man. This is just complete. Like my sentiment is going to remain the same on this as well. All right. There's your local golden pocket. To be quite honest, right? Like your anchored VWAP 786, the anchored VWAP moved up slightly. Right. This is still your next key level. You lose this, you're going down to the value area high golden pocket of the previous range. So lose 21 cents. I'm looking down to the 19-cent golden pocket value area high. This would be the case of just like a simple range retest. Fair value, deviation below, fill of the range, imbalance to the upside. If you pull back, golden pocket value area high is going to be the level to look at. And then at that point, right, you're hoping for a big bounce, a reclaim of that value area low for a bigger push into the POC and the value area high. But other than that, I mean, this all remains the same. This anchored VWAP is absolutely huge. If you can't hold this golden pocket and get back into your range, this is your doorway to higher prices. And we just get above it, back below it, back above it, back below it, and it's just chopping. So if you can't hold that golden pocket and get back above your value area low, I'd be looking to the 786 anchored VWAP. But once you lose that, I mean, I'm looking down here. Get stuck in here. Honestly, I'd anticipate the value area low because that's where your 786 sits. So next big places to look for a bounce. Honorable mention off the local fib. Hopefully you can do something like that. I just don't know how high probability that is. Because, again, if Ethereum gets the bigger pullback, this is probably going to get the bigger pullback. So lose it. You're hoping for something like that. Because if you get stuck in here, last opportunity would be at that 786. But even then, guys, it'd be similar. Like, what's Bitcoin doing at that point, right? Take a look at the higher time frames. This is why I kind of just been sticking to the higher time frames. Because this is really what people are going to care about on the altcoins, right? Like, weekly money flow is still trying to get into that green, cross over that zero line, get into the green. So, this long term would indicate higher lows and higher highs. It's just like, how far back are you going to have to pull? That's the question. So, yeah, not really too much of an update there on Arrow. But that value area lower doorway to higher prices is 24 cents. But just be aware, right? Like, you could play around with this level. It's like you really got to hold inside of this. And looking at your money flow here, let's take 12 and 16 hour, right? This is all coming out. Daily money flow, kind of flat. 2-day money flow crossing into the red. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you get the bigger pullback, especially when you look at something like Bitcoin, right? Like if Bitcoin's going to break this low, right, which, again, based off money flow would be anticipated, it would be nice to pull up into a higher level such as 115K for the lower high and lower low. But don't get it twisted, guys. We are definitely at local fib levels, which are an opportunity to put in a lower high and a lower low. All right, we're tapped into that golden pocket. And at this point, right, even the levels that we looked at a couple days ago on the stream, right, we're still playing around with this local golden pocket 786. All right, so like this is, definitely an area. Local lower high could come in here. If that's the case, you're looking to crack this low. And money flow would also be pointing towards that. So we'll see. ZBCN looks cooked. Every little pump gets pushed back down. Let's take a look. ZBCN. Yeah, I would just zoom out. Yeah, this is, I wouldn't say nothing about this looks cooked in my opinion. I would say the only thing that maybe looks cooked is the fact that you're putting in a lower high on this fib, which I kind of front ran, assuming it was going to be in that exact spot. But, when you look at the charts, as long as I have, it's not really super impressive to be able to call those. So, yeah, I mean, really, this chart does not look super, super bearish or anything like that, in my opinion. I would say money flow on the 16-hour, everything we just looked at on every altcoin, like 16-hour, sure, you can continue that trend to the downside. This thing looked cooked on, like, the 1-minute time frame. This is, but you got to zoom out, right? Like, this is, even from a weekly time frame, you got a massive rip of 921%, and you are down right now 40%, right? That's not that bad. You don't have your bearish divergence here. No higher high on price action. Money flow is in the green. 6-day money flow is in the green. 5-day money flow in the green. 4-day money flow in the green. 3-day money flow trending out, and your 2-day money flow trending out, just like everything else. So, yeah, I assume you're probably looking at the 5-minute or something, like every pump cooked. Yeah, but for sure, this is a super lower time frame, though. High time frame, I would say, not that you can't continue down, right? But I wouldn't really be concerned here until you start breaking down below about 0.003107.2. So, yeah, this is just, from the local high, you're down 30%. But, yeah, it doesn't look that bad, especially with the high time. From a high time frame money flow perspective, the weekly money flow in the green, there's going to be no information on the monthly, unfortunately. But, yeah, I would say as far as big support levels here, yeah, you have your volume profile here just to give you an idea of like the roadmap on where price can go next. Yeah, there's your deviation above the high, higher highs, lower highs. At that point, the next likely place for price to go is the POC. You've already tapped that. You can't get out. So you could potentially continue down here to the golden pocket or the 786. I'd put a little more weight on the 786 because it's confluent with your value area low. And yeah, honorable mention golden pocket, but I would say like this is the these are the local levels to look at. All right, you're just kind of ranging around here. So you could screenshot these prices, these gold lines, or these gold numbers to get that range on your chart. But I would say the biggest level, right, if you're going to fill this full profile in full, you got above the value area high. This is overvalued, bearish confirmations, stuck in the profile. POC is next. We've already done that. Can't get out. Lose this POC. I'd eventually look down for a final target of the value area low 786, which could be an area to look for a big bounce. And I would also kind of honorable mention here golden pocket. The reason I don't love the golden pocket is it's just in the middle of the range, right? Like for a short, you don't just want to like look for a short in the middle. Like if we were just like pushing up on this candle, I would never short this, right? I would wait for the deviation above for a bearish confirmation and then look to short to the POC. It's the same thing on the way down. I wouldn't necessarily just be looking to long this because at that point, if you're looking for the if you're looking for the flip of the value area low for a push into the POC, which is very likely what you got, flip the POC, go to the value area high. Why would I short here if I'm expecting that value area high? So I would say if you're going to get the bounce here, it's either going to happen on the POC or the value area low, 786. Could you bounce off the golden pocket? Yes, I just wouldn't be interested in a trade there just because of the context, right? Because it's like you could bounce off the golden pocket, and then at the end of the day, if you get stuck under that POC, you're expecting the high probability fill of that range anyway. So that's what I would look at on ZBCN. But there we go. Let me go ahead and take a quick look at... yeah, shout out to Daniel. I did cover Crow just a few minutes ago. Shout out to shout out to Muhammad says, "Oh my God, NMR," and then Dutchy said, "Nice try, Muhammad." That's funny. But yeah, I don't know if we're gonna have time to cover that. I will try to cover it. We'll see if we can cover it tomorrow. But just a real quick check-in on here on Bitcoin, as I've lost track of time once again, guys. One day I will get these the time of these live streams under control. So I would say right now, guys, I would be careful of this rejection down below the golden pocket 786 here. As I covered in the beginning of the stream, we covered this level on Monday, I believe. It's just pulled from this local high to the low. Right? If we're looking for aggressive lower highs, this would be the first place to potentially look for that to happen. If we get above it, biggest level to look at is going to be $115,000, which is also a zone, right? This $115,000 zone. So very hard to say. I mean, not impossible to put this lower high in here. Come take that low one more time into our biggest key levels of support. But if you missed the TA on Bitcoin, scrub back to the beginning of the stream. I covered everything I expect here. Not going to be surprised if we take that low. But if we come up here, these are the biggest levels of resistance, right? If we come up first, right, lower highs and lower lows are likely, just like you look for a lower high and a lower low here. If we just snap above this level again and we push up here, still looking for lower highs and lower lows. It wouldn't be until we break $115,150 that I would say, hey, now we can start to cook to the POC. Still key resistance. Once we get above there, we could start to talk about all-time highs. But until we start cracking those key levels, guys, I am going to be suspicious for bigger moves to the downside. But don't get too scared. We do still have a decent support zone down here, running down to about $107,000. So we already took the long down here in the premium off the daily MPOC. But, letting everybody know. Huge level of resistance. Probably want to lock in some profits here, guys. Next target will be the $115,000 zone. If not, that will get stopped out at break even or in profit, depending on if you locked in profits or not. And then if you do push down here, we still have opportunities to get the bigger bounce. If we lose this, yikes. Not the best case for Bitcoin, at least if you want price to go up. But with all that being said, guys, that's all the time. I got for tonight's live stream. Thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate every single one of you guys. Smash that like button on the way out, and hopefully, guys, we don't see the loss of that $107,000 level. But again, scrub back to the beginning of the stream. We covered everything in massive, massive detail, and it won't be until we wind up losing that $107,000 zone and see some kind of a retracement to the upside where we'll have a better idea if 125K was the top. But until we lose those levels, my bias still remains for at least the altcoins to get a massive pump to the upside at some point in the next month or so. And then, if Bitcoin, depending on, how big that retracement goes up, we'll try to identify if the top is in on Bitcoin, if we're going to finally see that big parabolic move to the upside. So with all that being said, guys, thank y'all for tuning in. I will be here tomorrow. If anything crazy happens, I'll drop a market update during the day or maybe even go live. But until then, I'll see you guys tomorrow, same place, same time, right here, 5:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the Frank Candles YouTube channel. That's all I got. Hasta pasta. Shout out to K Diggity. Shout out to Michael S. Shout out to Jake. Shout out to P-Dub. Shout out to Satoshi Glakamoto and Dutchie. That's all I got. Frank Candles out. Bing bong.
Coach, what's next for me, Joe? I'm gonna get that second belt. Where the is it? They should have had them 2 belts ready. Spit shine for me.
Yeah. Head up in the clouds, dog, they saying I look stressed. I've been feeling down, pray to God that I'm up next. Remember when she blew me off, that's why I can't text. Now she call me petty, but I swear I can't forget. This ain't a test. Now they saying that I ball like Jerry West. Coming back for what is mine, can't take no less. I said go and take a shot, so I need your best. And stop the threats, so nobody's into me. I don't got time, I'm not giving the energy. Too many people around me, I'm finicky. I do not mess with you, dog, you're not kidding me. You don't got way too close. I've been up at the top now, so they all wait for the landslide. I seen too many people that switched up, whose man's high. Through it all, I stay the same, I swear to God, I can't lie. Been down so damn low that I came up for my life. They talk way too much on the internet, it's not real life. I swear my fam waiting, I can't lose, and I'm still right. Still right, I swear that I'm working them up till like midnight. It's real life, I got a time and I'm coming to get mine. In time, I cannot lose and I'm coming right inside. I'm in my, yeah.
Shout out to Giga Longbottom. Says, can I use this information to trade on RuneScape? Bro, did you not know this is a RuneScape TA channel? This is not for the real markets, guys. This is only for trading in RuneScape. So shout out to Giga Longbottom. Go make some money. Or gems or whatever you make in RuneScape. I've never played. But shout out to the Mafia. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll keep you guys updated as the price action develops. Tomorrow, go touch some grass. Hasta pasta. Frankie Candles out. Bing bong!
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Ayy, on the road, here we go. Yeah, we winning by a landslide. Never see me coming on my landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command like. Yeah, you about to see me on demand like. You know on demand. If you ain't know, you about to understand. Yeah, I got the team by my side, right hand. Yeah, take it to a string, you ain't seen it like that. Yeah, and it's the dream, and we coming for the bag. Yeah, and we ain't ever going back now. Future expedited, now we on the fast track now. They won't lend a hand, now they see us on the map now. It's time to act out. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Ayy, on the road, here we go, yeah. At the top of the class on a roll. Ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know, yeah. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, yeah. On the road, here we go. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Ayy, on the road, here we go, yeah. At the top of the class on a roll. Ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know, yeah. Maxed out, put the